Chapter 1. On his giant body, billions of continents, mountains, rivers, ancient cities, and immortal realms were established. Countless immortals that were smaller than ants knelt on the ground and rang the morning bell together, praying to the void devoutly. Immortal sovereign, please awaken and head to the Daoyuo heaven to preach the Tao to a billion divine worlds. Wait, let me sleep for a while more. I dreamed of an interesting little guy. Ning Fan. Time and space intertwined. A billion years later. For heavens and 9 realms, reign celestial realm, state of you, dreamly mountain, all-pleasure sect. Within the all-pleasure school, there were only female cultivators, and their cultivation method was even more evil and shameless. Outside the Harmony Hall, a few young girls walked out of the main hall, their clothes in disarray. Their faces were flushed. From today onwards, we are considered to have officially joined the Devil sect. They left the He Hall and returned to their rooms to rest. Inside the He Hall, the voices of countless women could still be heard, as if they were torturing someone. In the hall, there was a black Buddha statue. The copper lamp was filled with oil and emitted a quiet light. A few young girls were currently humiliating a young man on the floor of the hall and under the feet of the black Buddha. These girls were all beautiful and charming. Being served by these girls, the young man didn't enjoy it at all. His eyes were numb, his expression sluggish, and there was a trace of sorrow on his face. He was a human cauldron that was betrayed and sold to the Devil's sect to be a human cauldron for the female devils. His body was already numb. Within a day, he had been raped by nearly 100 girls and was not far from death. Is Big Sister's service comfortable? A girl with 2 buns on her head teased the young man and asked coldly. Unbearable, disgusting. You guys, just kill me. The youth replied stubbornly. Humph, a mere human cauldron is just a tool for us sisters to harvest yang, yet he dares to talk back. He's courting death. The killing intent in the eyes of the 2 women turned cold. There was no trace of their previous gentleness. With a "pa" sound, they slapped the young man's face, causing his lips to bleed. Then, she put on a pitiful expression, cupped the young man's face, and asked with concern, "My little sweetheart, does it hurt? If you don't kill me, one day, I will take revenge on this sect." The young man had no cultivation base, but his eyes were filled with hatred. He. I didn't expect a fledgling like you to have such a big tone. Good, Big Sister will wait and see how you take revenge on us. However, there has never been a cauldron that could be served by us sisters for 3 days. You don't have much yang qi left. Maybe after tonight, your yang qi will be exhausted and you will die. Come, give this sister a kiss. Get lost. The youth roared in grief and indignation. The all-pleasure faction is a female cultivator demonic sect. Their cultivation method requires the harvesting of men's yang energy, which is despised by the righteous path. They were not serving the youth, but they were taking his yang energy step by step, torturing him to death. The moon floated in the night sky, and the last batch of girls finally returned to their rooms to rest. In the Hall of Harmony, only the youth was left, and his essence energy was scattered. His skin was fair, but at this moment, it was covered in the evil women's kiss marks. His long hair was like a waterfall, but at this moment, his hair was covered in filth. His yang energy was almost depleted and his life was in danger, but the hatred in his eyes did not diminish. Beneath the hatred, there was also a tinge of worry. I wonder how little brother is doing now. He should have been sold to some evil sect by the trader. The young man was called Ning Fan. He was the son of a servant of the Ning clan in Hai Ning of Wu country. He was sold to the evil sect by a trader of the Ning clan. He had a younger brother named Ning Gu who was also sold. This was the cultivation world, a world where the strong preyed on the weak. Even if it was a woman, as long as her cultivation was shocking, she could freely pluck a man. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Ning Fan gritted his teeth. He had always been kind to others, but he didn't expect that he would end up like this. I want to escape from the all-pleasure faction, I want to join an immortal sect and take revenge. He struggled to get up, but his fingers didn't have the slightest bit of strength, and his lower body was even more numb. He'd already been humiliated to the point that he'd lost all feeling and was unable to move. The door of the Harmony Palace was not locked. The demonesses did not even use a rope to tie Ning Fan up. They did not think that Ning Fan still had the strength to escape from the Harmony Palace. They did not even think that Ning Fan could survive tonight. A beauty's kindness was the hardest to bear. As 100 evil ladies had humiliated him, his essence chi had already dispersed. He would certainly die. Am I going to die? I can't accept this. I can't accept this. He closed his eyes in despair, and his breathing gradually weakened. In the tranquil night, there was only the sound of crickets echoing outside the Harmony Palace. Ning Fan knew that this was the sound of crickets seeking a mate. Thinking that crickets were also seeking a mate, he felt disgusted. When he was about to die, the door of the Harmony Palace creaked open. A young girl in white, around 12 to 13 years old, carrying a few steamed buns in her bosom, tiptoed into the main hall. How old are you? You also want to pluck me? Humph, not learning good things at such a young age. If you have the guts, then give me a quick death. Ning Fan turned his head and angrily glared at the young girl in white. Big brother, I didn't come here to pluck you. The young girl saw Ning Fan's white body and blushed. She turned her head away and said with a trembling voice. Humph, you dare to pluck me? Ha 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 ha. Cough cough cough. Ning Fan bitterly laughed, but because of his weakness, he coughed violently. The young girl quickly came over, took out the steamed buns, and put them on the ground. Her small hands carefully patted Ning Fan's chest to make him feel better. I want thank you. Ning Fan stubbornly sneered. I really didn't come to pluck you. Big brother, I was also captured by the evil nun. My big brother was used as a human cauldron and died 3 years ago. They saw that I was still young and didn't kill me. But when I grow up a bit, I will. I will also pluck a human cauldron and join the devil sect. When the young girl talked about her dead older brother, her tears fell down. Her face carried a completely different innocence from the evil girl's, causing Ning Fan's heart to soften and believe the young girl's words. Big brother, you must live on, you must, don't die. The young girl's face was filled with sadness. She felt that Ning Fan's and her older brother were very similar. The evil sect forbade men from feeding cauldrons, but the young girl risked punishment to steal the steamed buns for Ning Fan to eat. She truly had good intentions. I also don't want to die. I want to take revenge, I want to save my younger brother. Ning Fan's wryly smiled. Big brother, eat the steamed buns. If you eat your fill, perhaps you won't die. You were squeezed dry by them and must be replenished. Unfortunately, I don't have an immortal vein and cannot cultivate. Otherwise, I could definitely catch a pheasant and make soup for you to replenish your energy. Silly girl, you still have hands and feet. You should escape from the evil sect and live the life of an ordinary girl. Don't stay here, this place is too dirty. Cough cough cough. Ning Fan's knew that he was going to die without a doubt and no longer had the will to live. At the moment of death, there was a girl who cared about him, allowing him to finally feel the warmth of being a human. He was content, he didn't want the young girl to die here. I was poisoned by them, there is no antidote, so I cannot escape. Big brother, don't talk and eat the steamed buns, I will feed you. As the night fell, Ning Fan's breathing became difficult and he could no longer swallow the steamed buns. You go. Ning Fan's knew that he was going to die, but he didn't want this innocent girl to see his appearance when he died. Big brother, the young girl felt pain in her heart. She could see that Ning Fan's was going to die. Every cauldron that died had the same appearance as Ning Fan's. Her big brother also had the same expression that year. You still not leaving? Ning Fan's gritted his teeth and chased her away. His face was filled with the aura of death and his body began to feel cold. Big brother, then, I am leaving then, I picked up this jade pendant on the mountain. Wearing it will not make you feel cold. The young girl took the jade pendant from her chest and placed it in Ning Fan's hand. She faintly sighed and wiped her tears before leaving the grand hall. What is your name? Ning Fan's consciousness gradually became lost. My name is Ji He. The young girl could not bear to turn around and spoke in a low voice. Then, she left the hall as if she was escaping. Big brother is also going to die. One day, I will also die, right? We are all people with bitter fates. Ning Fan's breath dissipated. Before he fainted, he only felt one thing. His heart was no longer cold and had a trace of warmth. In a trance, he had an illusion that the jade pendant in his palm was also very warm. He had a short dream. In the dream, he was in a hazy void. In front of him, there was a 1,000 zhang tall fire steel. In the sky, there was a half-black and half-white sun. There were words on the steel, but they were too dazzling to be seen clearly. Immediately, he felt that his body was gradually warming up. The young girl named Ji He didn't seem to be lying to him. This ancient jade pendant seemed to be able to make people feel warm. Ning Fan's didn't notice that the moment he fainted, the woman's blood and the man's yang qi on his palm stained the jade pendant, causing it to emit a faint red light that was extremely beautiful. His yang qi that was originally dissipating was gradually recovering. An ancient and cryptic chant came from the jade pendant. Profound Yin world treasure, Yin yang locket. Heaven as the wife, earth as the concubine, all living beings as the cauldron. Yin and Yang Grand Tao, dual cultivation. Chapter 2. Ning Fan sat up and looked at the jade lock in his hand in silence. He didn't die and was saved by the jade lock. The jade lock was an ordinary jade with a jade-like texture. In the center, there was a trace of blood that vaguely swayed and flashed a warm light. Holding the green jade, Ning Fan felt warm all over his body. His body was filled with a warm current that gave him endless strength. Some of the wounds on his body were also constantly alleviated. He didn't die. Could it be that this jade lock saved him? Ning Fan didn't know that when he was unconscious, the jade lock helped him open his cultivation vein. At this moment, he was a first-level vein-opening cultivator and no longer had a mortal body. He also didn't know that the opened vein was an immemorial immortal vein, which was extremely rare. Looking at the jade lock, Ning Fan couldn't help but remember the humiliation he received before. He clenched his fists, revealing his young hands with distinct joints. Perhaps this is an immortal magical treasure. Ah, immortals. Being an immortal is really good. When one is about to die, they can use magical treasures to restore the young to prolong their life. With a heaven-shocking cultivation, they can ignore good and evil and bully mortals at will. Speaking of the high and mighty immortals, Ning Fan's eyes were full of contempt and indistinctly, there was a trace of unwillingness. For the first time, he hated his own weakness. If it was not because of this, he wouldn't have fallen to this point. He was persecuted and almost died in the all-pleasure school. An immortal item, I disdain. Ning Fan raised his hand, his chest was filled with anger that could not be vented. He wanted to throw the jade lock away, but he suddenly stopped and became silent. In the end, it was this lock that saved his life. The fault was not the magical treasure, but the immortals that abused it. So what if he vented his anger on a magical treasure? First run away. While the sky is not bright, I will escape from the all-pleasure school. Then I will find my little brother. Ning Fan stood up and took off the black Buddha robe in front of him and put it on. This robe was used to worship the black Buddha and was not an ordinary magical treasure. He didn't know that he only stole it to cover his body. He tiptoed out of the Harmony Hall. At this time, the evil women of the all-pleasure school were still resting and cultivating. There were only a few disciples guarding the mountain. He walked in the dark and hid behind a tree beside a small path in the back of the mountain. He held his breath and was as careful as a beast. He was only one step away from escaping the mountain. The path down the mountain was right in front of him. At the end of the path, he hesitated and stopped. He suddenly thought of Jiha, the girl who saved him. She seemed to have this name. Without Jiha's jade locket, he would have died without a doubt. Since they were going to escape, should he bring her along with him? That pure and innocent girl seemed to have been caught and brought to the all-pleasure school. However, if he turned back, he might be discovered by the disciples guarding the mountain, and he would lose his chance to escape. Should I go back to look for that little girl? Even as he hesitated, the entire dream-drifting mountain trembled, and rumbling sounds could be heard as the mountain itself almost collapsed. Then there was an insolent and angry laughter that resounded through the entire night sky of the all-pleasure faction. Good, you all-pleasure school. How dare you kill this daddy's men? Sha Joyo, get the hell out here. Boom. Another loud sound rang out, and the distant dream mountain shook even more violently. Ning Fan suddenly raised his head and saw that in the sky, under the full moon, a black-robed old man was standing on the sky. The evil chi around his body was monstrous, looking down on the common people like they were ants. Every time the old man's 5 fingers pressed down, there would be a vast amount of heaven and earth power spreading out, causing the entire distant dream mountain to shake. The appearance of this person alerted the entire all-pleasure school, and all the lights were lit up. Countless female cultivators with disheveled clothes went out to investigate, and when they saw the old man standing on the sky, their beautiful faces turned pale. Stepping on the sky, harmonious spirit old monster. A harmonious spirit old monster actually came to cause trouble. In the cultivation world, the cultivation realms were divided into 7 levels: vein opening, harmonious spirit, gold core, nascent soul, spirit severing, void refinement, and void fragmentation. A harmonious spirit expert at the 2nd level could already break free from the shackles of heaven and earth and stand on the sky. In Yu country, the all-pleasure school was considered a weak cultivation sect, and its sect master, Sha Joyo, was only a 10th level vein opening evil woman. Because Sha Joyo once had a fight with a harmonious spirit old monster, the reputation of the all-pleasure school rose, and no one dared to provoke them. In Yu country, a harmonious spirit old monster was already considered a strong expert. Unexpectedly, today, a harmonious spirit old monster actually came to the school gate. This was a bit troublesome. Sha Joyo stood on the ground, she was unable to fly, and under the old monster's pressure, she couldn't even stand stably. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent, and her mind was spinning rapidly, but she didn't know how she offended the black-robed old monster in front of her. Senior, you said that my all-pleasure school killed your people. This is really ridiculous. This concubine knows that her cultivation is low, so when I catch cauldrons and control men, I never dared to catch those with high cultivation, because I am afraid of offending people that I cannot afford to offend. This concubine absolutely did not kill your people. I ask Senior to investigate. Without evidence, do not wrongly accuse a good person. This concubine's husband is also a harmonious spirit expert, he may not be afraid of you. Sha Joyo's words carried a threat, but her words only made the old monster laugh in anger. Motherfucker, you killed this father's people, and you still dare to threaten this father. You still want evidence from this father? Ha! This father kills people, why do I need evidence? You think this father will wrongly accuse you? Dan fragmentation cauldron, smash for this father, ruthlessly smash. The old monster waved his hand, and from the storage pouch on his waist, he took out a small cauldron. It had 6 corners, 8 edges, 3 legs, and black chi soared to the sky. Without saying anything, he took out the small cauldron, and with a sign, the small cauldron grew to 100 zhang in size. With a loud bang, it heavily smashed onto the peak of the all-pleasure school. For a moment, half of the mountain peak was flattened by the cauldron, smoke and dust filled the sky, and rocks flew everywhere. I have long been annoyed by this group of foul women. Since I met them, I will kill them all. The old monster pointed at the lid of the cauldron, and the cauldron suddenly emitted a deafening dragon roar, and in the blink of an eye, 9 black fire dragons rushed out, revealing an ominous glint, wantonly killing people in the all-pleasure school. Every female cultivator that was bitten by the black fire dragon screamed, and in an instant, the black fire burned them into ashes. Xia Juyo's beautiful face was pale. She didn't think that this black-robed old man would be so ruthless, daring to kill people without reason. She finally recognized the old man's identity from this black cauldron. Dan Fragmentation Cauldron, Han Yuanji, you are the sinister Sparrow School's old monster Han. Xia Juyo's tone contained a bit of fear. Xia Juyo couldn't be fearless. Sinister Sparrow School's Han Yuanji, with the help of the Dan Fragmentation Cauldron and the Black Dragon Evil Fire, with a late harmonious spirit cultivation, he killed a gold core old monster, shocking the Yu country. This person was one of the top 10 evil Dao experts in the Yu country. Even a harmonious spirit old monster that once fought with her would hide far away from Han Yuanji. She simply couldn't afford to provoke this person. Damn it! Damn it! Could it be that she accidentally killed old monster Han's people? This old monster Han was the most protective person in his life. If this was really the case, then tonight, the all-pleasure school will be destroyed. In just a few breaths, half of the all-pleasure school's female disciples were dead. But Xia Juyo didn't have the heart to care, she only gritted her teeth to think of a way to escape. Ning Fan's heart was greatly shaken. In his mind, the image of old monster Han standing in the sky under the full moon was imprinted in his mind. So strong. Truly too strong. Without strength, he would only be bullied by others, but once he had strength, he could stand in the sky and look down on the common people. Was this the law of the cultivation world? Ning Fan's heart surged. One day, he also wanted to stand above tens of thousands of people, standing in the sky. Only like this, would he not be bullied. Not right, now is not the time to be emotional. After Ning Fan sighed, his expression greatly changed. He remembered that this old monster was here to destroy the school. He will surely kill all of the female cultivators. Will Jihe be killed as well? I have to take her away, otherwise, she will be mistakenly killed by this old monster. He only needed one step to go down the mountain, but with a shiver in his heart, he turned around and ran back to the all-pleasure school. This one step, this one decision, will completely change his life. Right now, the all-pleasure school was in chaos. No one paid attention to Ning Fan's. He turned left and right, searched dozens of disciples' rooms, and finally found Jihe in one room. Jihe hid in the corner with a pale face, shivering, and in front of her, several female disciples died on the side. The culprit was a ferocious black fire dragon. Save me, big brother, save me! Jihe saw Ning Fan come in and cried for help, but she was already forced to the corner by the black fire dragon. But, it was too late. Just as she cried for help, the black fire dragon opened its mouth and fiercely bit towards Jihe. Be careful. At this critical moment, Ning Fan did not have anything in his hands, and his heart was burning with anxiety. He subconsciously threw the jade lock with all his strength, smashing it on top of the black fire dragon's head. This lock was still a magical treasure, it should be able to slightly block the black fire dragon. After smashing the dragon's head, Ning Fan did not even look at the result. He pulled the panicking Jihe and quickly retreated to the door. He did not expect that this lock would be able to kill the black fire dragon, but something surprising happened. After being smashed by the jade lock, the black fire dragon let out a piercing scream, turned into a black flame, and was absorbed by the jade lock. At the same time, on the azure jade lock, there were a few more lively bloodlines. So powerful. Jihe's big eyes blinked with stars. She was shocked by the scene of Ning Fan killing the black fire dragon. Ning Fan picked up the jade lock. He knew that the jade lock was a magical treasure, but he did not know that it was so powerful that it could kill the black fire dragon in one strike. No one knew about the shocking change in this place, not even Sha Jiuyo and the evil women on the mountain. But the old monster, who was standing in the sky and laughing arrogantly, suddenly changed his expression and frowned. 9 fire dragons, one is dead, how is this possible? His divine sense swept across the entire Limeng mountain. In the room where the black fire dragon died, there was only Ning Fan and Jiha. A first-level vein-opening junior and immortal girl, they can kill my black fire dragon? Wait, this is... The old monster's divine sense swept over Ning Fan, but he could not see the mysteries of the jade lock, but he found the mysteries inside Ning Fan's body. This junior has the yin-yang evil vein. Good, very good, hee, I didn't think that this trip would have such an unexpected harvest. At this moment, it did not matter if he destroyed the all-pleasure school or not. In old Monster Han's mind, there was another thought. He opened his mouth and inhaled, taking back the remaining 8 fire dragons and the black cauldron. He waved his sleeve, creating a strong wind that directly destroyed the disciples' houses. Underneath, there were several hidden female cultivators and Ning Fan, who was holding Jiha, trying to escape. Kill my black fire dragon and still want to run? The old monster sneered and took a step forward, turning into a shadow. He flashed to the ground and appeared next to Ning Fan, grabbing his neck. Brat, you killed my black fire dragon, how do you want to die? The old monster released all of his murderous aura. Under this murderous aura, Ning Fan felt his internal organs rupturing and bleeding. As long as the old monster released his palm, he would die without a doubt. He wants to kill me. Ning Fan's eyes instinctively flashed with fear, but immediately, he suppressed this fear. He was kind to others, but he was persecuted and bullied. It was as if he had died once, so deep in his bones, there was a ruthless nature. The old monster asked him how he wanted to die, but Ning Fan, why should he die? I want you to die. Ning Fan waved the jade lock and fiercely smashed it towards the old monster's head, but the old man did not even try to dodge. The jade lock could easily kill a black dragon, but when it hit the old monster's head, it was not damaged and only emitted the sound of metal colliding. The old monster was attacked by Ning Fan, but not only was he not angry, he looked up to the sky and laughed. Good, good, good. Brad is not bad, you have a ruthless spirit, you have the potential to cultivate evil. The old monster's smile disappeared along with his murderous aura, but his expression suddenly became serious. Junior, do you want to be my disciple? Seeing that your yang qi is lacking, it should be because you became a cauldron for the all-pleasure school's women and lost your yang origin. Although it is a pity, it does not matter. As long as you nod your head and become my disciple, I will help you destroy the all-pleasure school and pass on my teachings. Are you willing? I am not willing. Ning Fan stubbornly retorted. This old monster Han was not a good person, he did not want to have such a master. Not willing. Ha ha ha, I will accept a disciple, why would I care if you are willing or not? If you dare to say the word no, I will strip this little girl next to you naked and bring her back to the evil school to be a cauldron. I will give you 3 breaths, if you don't nod your head, you will regret it. Old Monster Han's ruthless eyes fell on Jiha. Jiha shivered in fear and hid behind Ning Fan. 1. 2. If he counted to 3, Old Monster Han would really strip Jiha naked. He was a great villain, there was nothing he wouldn't dare to do. Wait a minute. Ning Fan gritted his teeth and looked at the fearful Jiha behind him, clenching his fists. There was no room for choice. He was too weak, if he refused Old Monster Han's request, Jiha would die, and he would also die. I agree, I will be your disciple. But one day, I will let you know that accepting me as your disciple was the biggest mistake you have ever made in your life. Ning Fan gritted his teeth and finally nodded. Good. Knowing the situation, I like it. Now you are my disciple, I will leave the all-pleasure school to you. If you say kill, I will kill. Did you say no? Hee hee. The old monster's eyes turned cold and revealed a meaningful smile. The life and death of these people are left to me to decide. Ning Fan stared at the night sky and silently closed his eyes. He loathed the high and mighty immortals, but he hated the evil school even more. But from today onwards, he had to worship an evil lord as his master. For a moment, there was a bitter taste in his mouth. He opened his eyes, and under the gaze of all the disciples, he walked towards the all-pleasure school's master, Sha Jiuyo. Yesterday, in the eyes of the all-pleasure school's disciples, he was only a lowly cauldron, and no one cared about his life or death. But today, he suddenly changed and became the disciple of Old Monster Han, with the power to decide the life and death of a group of cultivators. The surviving female cultivators saw Ning Fan coming, and as if they were looking at a plague, they quietly avoided him. And the girl that humiliated Ning Fan yesterday, under Ning Fan's gaze, fell to the ground in fear. The current Ning Fan only needed to open his mouth and he could ask the old monster to destroy the all-pleasure school. The life and death of an evil school was in Ning Fan's hands. Ning Fan walked to Sha Jiuyo's side and pinched her chin. Sha Jiuyo was the master of a school, but she was humiliated by a mortal. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent, and she almost wanted to slap Ning Fan to death, but she didn't dare. Her life and death was in Ning Fan's hands. "Huh, little Lang Jun, are you interested in me? If you promise not to kill me, I am willing to be husband's pillow." Sha Jiuyo's appearance was not ordinary and had a sense of charm, but Ning Fan didn't put it in his eyes and only sneered. "My little brother, Ninggu, where is he now?" "Your little brother Ninggu?" "What Ninggu?" Sha Jiuyo thought for a moment, then said, "You are talking about the cauldron with the mysterious evil physique. He was bought by a female senior of the Heaven Separation Evil School, so he is not here." Sha Jiuyo was timid and only dared to pluck mortal males. Those with a bit of cultivation or a good physique were all sold to the powerful evil schools. Ning Fan didn't have any cultivation, so he was left in the all-pleasure school to be played with, while his little brother was sold to the powerful evil school, the Heaven Separation School. At this moment, Ning Fan's life and death was in his hands, so Sha Jiuyo naturally didn't hide anything. Ning Fan's expression became even colder. Sold. His younger brother had actually been sold. Heaven Separation School. Never heard of it, but thinking about it, it was only a dirty place like the all-pleasure school. Is this the way immortals do things? Ning Fan seemed to want to roar out the unwillingness in his heart. After a long time, he calmed down and said to Old Monster Han. "Senior, I've decided. I'll kill them." Ning Fan pointed at Sha Jiuyo and the others and made his decision. His cultivation was not high, but his mind was sharp and he was not stupid. He faintly guessed that the reason why the old monster let him decide the life and death of the all-pleasure school was a test. The test was to see if he had the qualifications to join the evil schools. In the evil schools, people should kill, not to mention their enemies, so they naturally couldn't be merciful. Ning Fan faintly guessed that if he let the all-pleasure school people go, Old Monster Han would still kill them all, and he would also be killed. He couldn't save the lives of the all-pleasure school people, and he didn't plan to save them. Only Jiha couldn't die, but I want her to live. Ning Fan pointed at Jiha. He absolutely couldn't watch his savior die in the hands of the old monster. Is this your decision? Old Monster Han looked at Ning Fan's non-committally, giving off an invisible pressure. After a long time, he laughed loudly and said, "Good. I'll listen to you. This little girl can live, but the others must die." The old monster nodded with satisfaction. If Ning Fan had the slightest mercy towards Sha Jiuyo and the others, he would have mercilessly killed Ning Fan after using him. He couldn't truly see him as a disciple. Without an evil heart, being merciful was not worthy of being an evil lord. What made the old monster even more satisfied was Ning Fan's determination to save Jiha. A little brat with principles and perseverance was not bad. Smelly brat, what is your name? Ning Fan. Little brat Ning Fan, good, now open your eyes wide and watch carefully. Master will teach you how to kill. Old Monster Han deeply looked at Ning Fan, then he walked towards Sha Jiuyo and the others with a murderous aura. A one-sided massacre unfolded just like that. At the same time, from the Jade Lock, came the sweet sound of a woman in her sleep, but no one could hear her voice. Chapter 3. Those who died to the black fire before were considered lucky. Those who died later on were too horrible to look at. Old Monster Han killing people was like a performance art. He didn't violate a woman because that was not his style. You cannot show mercy to your enemies, otherwise, you will regret it in the future. This was the first lesson that Old Monster Han gave Ning Fan. Skinning, cutting at the waist, splitting the body, dismembering, cooking, inserting needles, burying alive, poisoning, stick punishment, cutting, breaking the spine, pouring lead, scrubbing, playing the lute, pulling out the intestines, every method that Old Monster Han could think of was used. When the morning came, the dream-separating mountain was already in a mess with broken flesh, broken limbs, and even feces and urine. Little Jiha had already fainted when Old Monster Han killed the first person, but Ning Fan gritted his teeth and forced himself to watch from the beginning to the end. The stench of blood and stench made Ning Fan vomit 3 times before he finally adapted to the killing scene. Ning Fan had to watch, for he was not stupid. He could guess that if he couldn't endure this killing and fainted like Jiha, Old Monster Han would not hesitate to kill him. Sinister Sparrow School, Han Yuanji, this was a true devil that was constantly testing Ning Fan. Little brat, not bad. When I first became your disciple, my master was also like this, destroying an evil sect. At that time, I vomited 6 times. Old Monster Han looked at Ning Fan with bright eyes. This child has a persevering temperament, a good seedling for evil cultivation. Old Monster Han didn't know that Ning Fan originally could not bear to see blood. He didn't want to see blood, but he had to, otherwise, he would die. Come, I will take you back to 7 Apricot City. Old Monster held Jiha in one hand and Ning Fan in the other. Both of his feet soared into the sky. From the beginning to the end, Ning Fan didn't say any superfluous words to the old monster. The current him was on the chopping block and only wanted to live. The more he spoke, the more mistakes he would make. Old Monster flew at an extremely fast speed. In just one day, he flew from the western region of Yu to the northern region, crossing a distance of several thousand li. During this time, he flew several times above the righteous sections. Anyone who dared to stop him was blown away by the cauldron with extreme tyranny. In the northern region of Yu, there was an ice-casted city named 7 Apricot City. The entire city was shrouded in a strange cold air, as if it could even freeze one's soul. There were thousands of cultivators in 7 Apricot City, and there were even 3 harmonious spirit experts. Sensing the old monster's movements, the 3 experts simultaneously stepped on the clouds and looked at the old monster with respectful expressions. Greetings, City Lord. Dispense with the formality, all of you get lost for your father. Old Monster Han drove the 3 away and looked at Ning Fan deeply. Ning Fan was on guard against 7 Apricot City and the 3 experts. This was good. Entering a strange place and seeing strange people, it was necessary to be vigilant. I am 7 Apricot City Lord, one of the 4 masters of Sinister Sparrow School, Master Alchemist Han. There is still half a year before the Sinister Sparrow Sect's disciple recruitment ceremony. I, your father, will give you half a year to reach the 5th level of vein opening, or else, die. The old monster looked at 7 Apricot City under the sea of clouds. His originally arrogant and domineering eyes inadvertently flashed a trace of sorrow. It was very strange for such sorrow to appear on a murderous demon like him. This is a devil with a story. Ning Fan did not have the intention to pry into old Devil Han's secrets. That would be seeking his own death. Ning Fan, 16 years old. After becoming a servant of the Ning clan in Hai Ning, he was plotted against and sold into an evil sect. He was separated from his younger brother, obtained the jade lock, became an alchemist, and entered 7 Apricot City. Under the moonlight, in the icy wind, Ning Fan recalled the past and tightened his grip on the jade lock. It had been 3 days since he was captured and brought to 7 Apricot City. On the windowsill, there was a book, 7 Apricot Records. This book seemed to be written by a female evil woman in 7 Apricot City. It was not a cultivation merit law, but only an introduction to true and evil cultivation. When Old Monster Han handed this book to Ning Fan, his eyes looked as if he wanted to eat someone. Your father will give this book to you. Within half a year, if this book is damaged, your father will make you pay with your life. The book recorded the basic knowledge of true cultivation, as well as the art of opening meridians. To become an immortal, one needed to absorb the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth, and to do so, one needed meridians. These meridians could not be the meridians of mortals, they needed to be immortal meridians. The immortal meridians of the righteous Tao were called God meridians. The evil Tao cultivated the evil Tao were called evil meridians. The demonic beasts cultivated the immortal meridians were called demon meridians. The first realm of true cultivation was the vein-opening realm. This realm did not require any merit law, they only needed to absorb the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth or the medicinal power of spirit herbs to form an immortal meridian in their body, allowing them to continuously increase their strength. Among mortals, only 1 in 10,000 could successfully open their veins. The opened immortal meridians were also divided into good and bad. Ning Fan closed his eyes and immersed his mind. He felt a warm current in his body following a strange path from his dantian to the rest of his body. That path was the immortal meridian in his body. For ordinary immortal meridians, it would take a day or even several days for the magical power to complete one cycle. But for Ning Fan, it only took him 1 hour to complete one cycle. Without a doubt, Ning Fan's cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary immortal meridian cultivators. Moreover, the magical power he cultivated vaguely seemed to have a special characteristic, immemorial immortal meridian. Ning Fan's eyes flashed. The immortal meridian he had was called immemorial immortal meridian in the 7 Apricot Records. Immemorial immortal meridians were extremely rare, but there were many types. Compared to ordinary immortal meridians, immemorial immortal meridian had a much faster cultivation speed, and as one's cultivation deepened, they would be able to cultivate special abilities. Ning Fan did not know what kind of immemorial immortal meridian he cultivated. The series of events that happened made him feel a bit absent-minded, as if he had just woken up from a dream. A few days ago, he was only an ordinary person who was persecuted and almost died in the all-pleasure school, an evil sect. A few days later, he was fortunate enough to become a cultivator and became the disciple of an evil lord, living in this 7 Apricot City that was covered in ice and snow all year round. I didn't expect that I would become a cultivator. Is it because of this jade locket? Ning Fan took out the jade locket from his sleeve with a complicated gaze. After reading the 7 Apricot Records, Ning Fan had some understanding of the matters of cultivation. This locket could help a mortal like him open an immemorial immortal meridian. It was absolutely a supreme treasure. Ning Fan still remembered that when he first arrived at 7 Apricot City, Old Monster Han ordered him to take out this treasure and let him have a look. A magical treasure that could destroy the Black Dragon. Old Monster Han was naturally very interested, but with Old Monster Han's eyesight, he could not see anything extraordinary about this locket. This item is either useless or it is a supreme treasure. Even with my eyesight, I cannot see through it. Most likely it is not an ordinary item. If you were not my disciple, I would definitely kill you and take this item away. But according to the rules of my black evil sect, a master cannot take a disciple's treasure. Forget it, I will not take your fortune, give it back to you. In the end, Old Monster Han actually returned the jade locket to Ning Fan. This made Ning Fan's understanding of Old Monster Han rise to another level. This old monster Han seemed to truly consider him as his disciple and did not steal his treasure. This was an evil lord with a bottom line open and immortal meridian. That was first level vein opening. Opening for immortal meridian was second level vein opening. Using this analogy, in order for old monster Han to reach fifth level vein opening in half a year, he would need to open 25 immortal meridian. In the 3 days since he arrived at 7 Apricot City, every day, there would be servants bringing many jade bottles filled with high-quality dawn that were very beneficial for vein opening cultivation. It seemed like old monster Han wanted to raise Ning Fan all the way to the 5th level vein opening. However, the strange thing was that there was another servant bringing old monster Han's order, saying that Ning Fan had absolute freedom in 7 Apricot City. What does this mean? Inside 7 Apricot City, Ning Fan could move freely without anyone restraining him. But if he ran outside of 7 Apricot City, he would probably be caught. Ning Fan did not eat any of the dawn brought by the servants because he was not in a hurry. In these 3 days, he read the entire 7 Apricot record several times and memorized it by heart. After ensuring that he had a good understanding of the foundation of cultivation, he began to draw up his future plans. Whether it was voluntary or not, he had to become old monster Han's disciple and embark on the path of evil cultivation. Since there was no other choice, he could only brace himself and continue. Facing the temperamental old monster Han, he had to be careful. The cultivation target set by old monster Han must be completed, or else it would be difficult to escape death. Ning Fan did not want to die. He still wanted to take revenge against the people who harmed him and find his missing little brother. He wanted to live well. And Ning Fan slightly sighed. He had always been a cold person, but that little girl made him unable to ignore her. That little girl was still in old monster Han's hands. He did not know how she was doing. She had saved him before. If she did not bring him the steamed buns and the jade locket, Ning Fan would have most likely died in the all-pleasure school's night. Awake, finally awake. Kiki, such a handsome young man, are you willing to obtain the Yin Yang locket's inheritance? While Ning Fan was contemplating, the jade locket suddenly emitted a faint red light and a soft female voice came out from within. Ning Fan's eyes became serious, but before he could react, the jade locket turned into a red light and directly flew into Ning Fan's dantian, ignoring all obstructions. In a flash, Ning Fan felt an unbearable heat all over his body as his breathing gradually became heavier. Who is it? Who is talking? Ning Fan's expression sank. He was, after all, a rookie who had just started cultivating. Encountering this kind of situation, he simply did not know how to deal with it. There was one more jade locket in his dantian, but he could not take it out. As the jade locket entered his body became hotter and hotter, and his consciousness became more and more blurred. There was a constantly deepening desire in his heart that could not be expressed with words. It was as if he wanted to tear apart something soft and was filled with tyrannical emotions. What to do? How to deal with this situation? Ning Fan wanted to shout out, but he could not make a sound. His body was unable to move as he fell straight on the bed. There was a fire in his dantian that wanted to burn his entire body. Gradually, Ning Fan's entire body became numb and even his consciousness was about to be lost. Want a woman to dispel this fire. Kiki, this locket is called the Yin Yang locket, an inherited item from ancient chaos. If you obtain this locket and can recognize you as its master, then you can obtain the inheritance within. This is an opportunity that Big Sister has been planning for many years. I can only let you have it, or else Big Sister will have to wait for many years. The faint sigh of a woman directly appeared in Ning Fan's mind. However, at this moment, Ning Fan had no energy to think about these questions. The mysterious voice let out a few cheerful laughs and then no longer made any sound. Hot, so hot. This situation was like a mortal being poisoned, unbearably hot. Pain, his entire body was in extreme pain. If he could not expel this heat, then his blood and chi would reverse and he would die. Damn it! What kind of jade locket is this? how could such an accident happen? Big brother, what's wrong with you? Ah, you are so hot, I will call someone to save you. Ah. Big brother, don't press me down, I know, you are poisoned, I will call someone. Ah. Let go, woo stupid, idiot. You want to use me to cure the poison. Quickly let go. In a trance, Ning Fan suddenly felt a cold and soft body in his arms. He pinned her down, but she was struggling and crying. His last trace of rationality forced Ning Fan to stop caressing her, and the petite figure finally escaped from under him. So close, I was almost killed. Big brother, what's wrong with you? The petite figure suddenly exclaimed. It was Ning Fan who had completely fainted and his breath was slowly weakening. He will die, Ning Fan will die. During her days in the all-pleasure school, she had seen many evil women feeding the charming poison to men and letting them die bit by bit for fun. The charming poison of a cultivator could not be underestimated. If it was not done, then he would die unless he had an extremely high cultivation. Big brother. Will he also die? No. If he died, then there would be nothing left. The petite figure wiped away the tears on her face, as if she had made a painful decision. She took off her clothes one by one. Anyways, I am poisoned by the evil nun and will not live for long. Big brother, you saved me once in the all-pleasure school. Now, it is Jiha's turn to save you. You must live on. A night of absurdity. Early in the morning, Ning Fan struggled to open his eyes and looked at the sleeping body next to him with a wry smile. Beside him, Jiha's petite body was full of bruises. On the brocade quilt, there was also a pool of blood, like the 7 plum blossoms in full bloom in the snow. Jiha's small face still had tear stains like a pear blossom in the rain, very lovely. Her lips were dry and cracked, and there were bruises on her chest. In his mind, there were still bits and pieces of broken memories. Ning Fan gritted his teeth and closed his eyes in guilt. Ning Fan, oh Ning Fan, what did you do? She is still a child. He did not know why he was in danger. The evil fire burned his body and he almost died, but it was Jiha who saved him. Big brother, don't die, Jiha will save you. You must survive. While murmuring, Jiha spoke in her sleep and unconsciously turned her body, causing her to frown in pain. This dream was not destined to be sweet. Ning Fan struggled to get up and looked at Jiha with pity. With guilt, he reached out his hand, wanting to wipe away the girl's tears. If it wasn't for her, he would definitely be dead. Just what had happened to that damn jade lock? Why was he like a madman with evil fire burning his body? Suddenly, there was a sharp pain in his mind, causing Ning Fan to almost faint from the pain. The mysterious voice rang again. Hee, my little husband is very lucky. Thanks to this little girl's help, the yin-yang locket has recognized you as its master. Sigh, my sister was not well prepared that year and did not prepare a man to resolve the fire, so she was devoured by the heart devil and was trapped in the locket. You are very lucky. It seems like you can smoothly obtain the inheritance of ancient chaos. Great Emperor's memory. Who are you? Ning Fan clenched his fist and coldly said. Hee, if you want to know who my sister is, then take the inheritance of the yin-yang locket's memory. In a split second, the sharp pain came like a tidal wave, and a series of messy and broken memories directly imprinted into Ning Fan's mind. I am ancient chaos, an immortal emperor. I once listened to the immortal emperor's teachings and comprehended the grand Tao of yin and yang. I have no children in my life, so when I turned into the Tao, I forged this immortal locket and passed on my 3 thoughts and 1 steel, connecting one world to the future generations. The immortal emperor once said that outside of the first ring of the heavenly Tao, the Tao of arts cannot be easily passed down. Thus, all of my thoughts are in the first ring. My first thought recorded all of my life's learning, and you have obtained it. In the first ring of the heavenly Tao, there are very few people as knowledgeable as you. His mind was pierced by the memory needle, and the pain penetrated into his soul. Even an ordinary harmonious spirit expert might not be able to endure this pain, but Ning Fan had experienced a great change and his heart was like the sea of devils, so he gritted his teeth and endured it. After obtaining the inheritance, he felt that the pain was not even worth mentioning. The contents of these memories made Ning Fan's heart tremble. Medicine, divination, astrology, 100 schools of scriptures, alchemy and refinement, poetry and songs, both righteous and evil. Even though the memories were broken and messy, it still greatly increased Ning Fan's knowledge. What made Ning Fan even more shocked were the words in the memories. Immortal Emperor. The inheritance of memories in Ning Fan's mind once belonged to an immortal emperor. What kind of person could be called an immortal emperor? Even though Ning Fan had read the 7 apricot records, there was no introduction of an immortal emperor. It was too far away. In the Rain Immortal world where he lived, the highest cultivation was only a void fragmentation old monster, but even these old monsters did not dare to call themselves an immortal emperor. What kind of powerful existence passed down this inheritance of memories? Without any preparation, the inheritance of the second sense followed. This time, the pain was like an iron brush washing his mind. Even a gold core expert might not be able to endure it. Ning Fan's mouth and nose were overflowing with blood. This blood stimulated the ruthlessness in his heart. He clenched his teeth and endured this pain. My second sense recorded the comprehension of the first step of cultivation. If you can obtain it, it will surely be beneficial on the path of comprehension and widen your horizons. Bang! The third round of memory inheritance finally came. Ning Fan screamed and almost fainted, but he clenched his teeth and endured it. This time, the inheritance of memories felt like thousands of blades cutting his soul into pieces. His face was as pale as paper, and his life was in danger. But when he glanced at the girl's figure and saw the traces of pain on her face, his pain seemed insignificant. My third sense is called yin-yang transformation. Even though it is an immemorial evil technique, it is not an evil technique. If I can obtain this technique, along with the yin-yang locket, it will be as easy as flipping my hand to control a dragon and a phoenix. This second sense contained a dual cultivation technique that matched with the yin-yang locket. Its name was yin-yang transformation. This was an immemorial evil technique that cultivated the immemorial evil vein, yin-yang evil vein. Ning Fan felt that the immortal vein in his body was resonating with this technique when the memory of this technique appeared in his mind. If there was no accident, the immortal vein that he cultivated with the jade locket would be the yin-yang evil vein. After the inheritance of the three senses was completed, the immortal emperor's remnant sense in the yin-yang locket slowly dissipated as if it never existed. Ning Fan was exhausted and fell next to Jihe. He panted and carefully organized the immortal emperor's memory inheritance in his mind. After obtaining this inheritance, his cultivation was still at the first level of vein opening, but his knowledge was not comparable to those old monsters in the Rain Immortal world who had cultivated for many years. Yin-yang locket, yin-yang transformation, immortal emperor's inheritance, dual cultivation technique, yin-yang evil vein. Ning Fan needed to digest this series of information. Little Langjun succeeded in obtaining the inheritance of memories? Congratulations! A tender laughter resounded in Ning Fan's mind. The voice came from the jade locket. After obtaining part of the immortal emperor's memory inheritance, Ning Fan's experience was not the same as before. He could vaguely see that there was an old monster living in the jade locket in his Dantian Yu. Who are you? Chapter 4. As the disciple of the old monster, he lived in the ice palace. Occasionally, the servants who came to deliver elixirs would come under orders and leave after delivering the elixirs. In the empty ice palace, no one could be seen, and no one knew about the absurd night between Ning Fan and Jihe. Looking at the sleeping Jihe, Ning Fan's bitter smile gradually turned into determination. She saved him, so he owed her his life. He would definitely save her life from the hands of the old devil. He had to make a proper plan for the future. Ning Fan briefly recalled the first half of his life. He was born in the cultivation country of Wu country and was a mortal servant of the Ning family of Haining. He and his younger brother, Ning Gu, depended on each other. Later on, he was persecuted and sold to the cultivation country of Yu. He fell into the hands of the all-pleasure sect and almost died, but was saved by Jihe. Then he became Old Monster Han's disciple and went to Old Monster Han's base, 7 Apricot City, officially stepping onto the road of cultivation. Old Devil Han gave him a cultivation target. Within half a year, he must cultivate to the 5th level of vein opening realm. Although he didn't know why Old Monster Han gave such an order, he knew that he had no reason to refuse. After obtaining the memory inheritance of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor, he was no longer ignorant about the matters of cultivation. Among the 7 realms of cultivation, the vein opening realm was only the first realm. It was not difficult to advance to this realm. Moreover, he had the rare immemorial devil veins, so it was not difficult for him to complete the old monster's target. In a trance, Ning Fan recalled the night when Old Monster Han stood in the sky. Since he had embarked on the path of cultivation, he had to pursue something. One day, he would also become such a powerful cultivator. The cultivation of the vein opening stage is extremely boring. You only need to refine the dawn and absorb the heaven and earth spiritual chi to complete it. However, I have obtained the inheritance of the immortal emperor's memories. Among them, there is a devil Dao cultivation technique called yin-yang transformation. This cultivation technique is of the same origin as the immemorial devil veins in my body. If I practice this cultivation technique, it can greatly reduce the time needed to break through to the 5th level of vein opening. Ning Fan closed his eyes and recalled the immortal emperor's inheritance. In the memories of the celestial emperor, there were mixed scriptures and comprehensions, but there was only one orthodox cultivation method. Yin-yang transformation. It was left behind by the legendary immortal emperor, ancient chaos grand emperor. This technique was divided into 10 levels, and it recorded many dual cultivation techniques. Every level that was cultivated would greatly increase one's cultivation. With the help of the yin-yang locket, dual cultivation with a woman would be even more beneficial. Yin-yang locket. Looking at the jade locket in his dantian, Ning Fan was slightly shocked. He already knew that this jade locket was the inheritance treasure of an immortal emperor. It was extremely extraordinary. When used together with the yin-yang transformation, it was even more beneficial. Yin-yang locket, yin-yang transformation. These two would help him on the road to becoming a powerhouse. The yin-yang transformation was a dual cultivation technique. It required yin to supplement yang and yang to control yin, ultimately achieving the goal of yin and yang harmonizing. The advancement of the cultivation technique could only be achieved through dual cultivation. If the cultivator's cultivation was insufficient, they would need to devour flames to replenish their yang energy and balance the yin and yang in their bodies. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, he would need to dual cultivate with any woman 99 times and devour 9 types of mortal flames in order to cultivate the first level of this cultivation technique. The second level required him to have sex intercourse with a nascent soul stage female cultivator 99 times and swallow 999 types of mortal flames. To reach the third level, one would need to perform dual cultivation with a void fragmentation realm female cultivator 99 times and devour 9 types of void flames. This was the rough estimation he made after obtaining the immortal emperor's memories, but he wasn't sure of the exact details. As for the higher levels of cultivation technique, Ning Fan didn't know how to cultivate them. The immortal emperor's memories weren't complete and didn't mention the higher levels of cultivation. The first level is fine, but the second level requires dual cultivation with a nascent soul female cultivator and the third level requires a void fragmentation female cultivator. Ning Fan smiled bitterly and rubbed his forehead. In the cultivation country he was currently in, the highest cultivation base in Yu country was only at the gold core realm. Old Monster Han was only a harmonious spirit cultivator. These people seemed to be insignificant in front of a nascent soul old monster. He couldn't even defeat old monster Han, so how could he dual cultivate with a nascent soul female cultivator? As for a void fragmentation female cultivator with a third-level cultivation technique, Ning Fan didn't even dare to think about it. The place he was in was called the Rain Immortal World. Yu country was just one of the countless cultivation countries in the Rain Immortal World. In the Rain Immortal World, the highest cultivation base was only at the void fragmentation realm. Ning Fan was just a newbie who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, so how could there be a void fragmentation female cultivator willing to dual cultivate with him? It was still a long way to go before he could cultivate the third level of yin-yang transformation. However, if he could cultivate the third level, it would be quite beneficial. Ning Fan's eyes lit up. From the Immortal Emperor's memories, Ning Fan knew. If he could cultivate the yin-yang transformation to the third level, he would be able to use the locked world of the yin-yang locket, Profound Yin World. The yin-yang locket was a supreme treasure passed down by the Immortal Emperors. It contained an extremely vast locked world called the Profound Yin World. Ning Fan still remembered that the mysterious female's voice seemed to come from the Profound Yin World. That mysterious female, who was she? Why was she in the Profound Yin World? Ning Fan couldn't figure it out, so he decided not to think about it. In any case, it was certain that the female couldn't leave the Profound Yin World. Perhaps one day, when Ning Fan reached the third level and opened the Profound Yin World, he would be able to find out the female's identity. My current cultivation base is only at the first level of vein opening. I have just stepped onto the path of cultivation, so I don't have the ability to protect myself. What is this? Ning Fan's eyes suddenly shook, as if he had sensed something from the yin-yang locket. Then, with a thought, a black flame shot out from the tip of his finger and burned. Why is there a black flame in my body? Ning Fan's eyes were shocked. He suddenly remembered the day when he smashed the black fire dragon with the yin-yang locket and faintly understood. It was the yin-yang locket that swallowed the power of the black fire dragon, giving his body the ability to use the black flame. Ning Fan's cultivation base wasn't high, only at the first level of vein opening, but this black flame was very powerful, giving Ning Fan a strong feeling. He didn't know what kind of flame this was, but with this black flame, he was confident that he could easily burn any vein opening cultivator to death. Even if it was a harmonious spirit cultivator, he would still have the strength to fight. He didn't think that he would have such a powerful ability when he just stepped into the cultivation world. Was this a benefit? Speaking of which, if one's cultivation base wasn't high, then they would need to swallow flames to replenish their yang qi. With the black flame in his body, would his yang qi still be insufficient? In this way, he only needed to find a woman and dual cultivate 99 times, then he should be able to break through the first level of the yin-yang transformation. Where should he find a woman to dual cultivate with? Ning Fan turned his eyes and looked at the sleeping Jihe. He was hesitant and couldn't bear it. If he dual cultivated with Jihe, then he could gradually master the first level of the merit law and his strength would greatly increase, but Jihe was still a child. Ning Fan had gone through great changes and witnessed the cruel killing scenes. His heart was as ruthless as a devil, and he gradually learned to have a heart of stone. But Jihe walked into his heart when he was in despair and saved him twice. The first time, she gave him the jade locket and steamed buns. The second time, she lost her innocence. Without Jihe, Ning Fan would have already died in the all-pleasure school and wouldn't be able to live until today. The previous absurd incident was only an accident. If Ning Fan hurt Jihe again, he wouldn't have the heart to do so. I will never abandon this girl in this life. This kind of thing, at least wait until she grows up a bit more before talking about it. Ning Fan sighed and walked out of the room. He bathed in the snow of the Si Fan Palace and thought about the future. 7 Apricot City was a city that snowed all year round. The snowflakes never stopped, but it gave people a feeling of loneliness. After becoming a cultivator, he had the black fire. Even if he bathed in the snow, Ning Fan didn't feel cold and stood there for a long time. After an unknown amount of time, the sound of Jihe waking up came from the room. Then, there was the faint sound of sobbing. Jihe woke up. She saved Ning Fan twice, and the last time, she didn't even hesitate to give up her innocence. But when she woke up, she found herself alone, and her heart felt somewhat uncomfortable. She gave her body to her big brother, but when she woke up, her big brother wasn't by her side. It was clearly her decision, so why did she still feel uncomfortable? She didn't understand. She was captured into the all-pleasure school at the age of 9. Since then, she had never been in contact with a man and didn't understand feelings. Now that she was 14 years old, she lost her innocence to save Ning Fan. Everything had nothing to do with sex, she just couldn't bear to see Ning Fan die. When she opened her eyes and didn't see Ning Fan, she felt a bit wronged. At this time, Ning Fan should be by her side, but so what if he was there? She lost her innocence and couldn't get it back. I don't understand. Jihe's petite body was white but full of scars. She pushed away the brocade quilt and got down, but her lower body hurt, causing her to lose her balance and fall to the ground. Hiss! Why is it so painful? Big brother is really a beast. Be careful. A thin embrace caught her. She was naked, but the other party didn't have any desire. You're awake. Ning Fan smiled warmly like a charming young man. Ah, big brother, where did you go? Don't look, I still haven't put on my clothes. Jihe was a bit flustered. She found that when Ning Fan hugged her, her originally weak body became even weaker. In her mind, she recalled the absurdity of last night, so she didn't dare to look at Ning Fan's eyes. Jihe. Don't be afraid. You only saved Big Brother's life, no need to be so shy. In her heart, Jihe kept encouraging herself, but her face became hotter and redder. She was really shy. Seeing Jihe's shyness, Ning Fan bitterly smiled and closed his eyes. He carried Jihe back to the bed and covered her with the mandarin duck quilt. After becoming a cultivator, Ning Fan's 5 senses were unprecedentedly sharp. Even if he didn't open his eyes, he could still vaguely sense everything around him. Don't move, rest a bit more. Last night, Jihe was willing. Either way, Jihe was poisoned by evil nun and won't live for long. Being able to save Big Brother's life, Jihe is already very happy. Jihe saw Ning Fan close his eyes, so she was no longer shy. Seeing Ning Fan blaming himself, she immediately comforted him. You were poisoned. Ning Fan opened his eyes with a hint of nervousness. He reached out and grabbed Jihe's wrist. It was white and smooth, but a bit cold, as if it was because of his weak body. Big brother, quickly let go, men and women shouldn't touch each other. Jihe was so nervous that she couldn't speak. Ning Fan was speechless. The two of them were already like that, what was there to not touch each other? Don't worry, I won't touch you, I'm just checking your pulse. Ning Fan obtained the immortal emperor's memories, and there was a lot of medical knowledge. In the past, Ning Fan didn't know how to check pulses, but now, he knew. After checking her pulse, Ning Fan's expression became extremely serious. Jihe's pulse was too weak, and the poison in her body was like the king of hell, constantly eroding her life force. If he couldn't detoxify the poison, Jihe won't live for long. What to do? How to save Jihe? Ning Fan forced himself to calm down and recalled the immortal emperor's memories. There were many ways to detoxify the poison, and gradually, he had an idea. He had the method, but he lacked the ingredients to refine it into a Dan. He knew how to refine Dan from the immortal emperor's memories. Even if his cultivation wasn't high, but in terms of Dan concoction, he was afraid that no one in Yu country could compare to him. If it wasn't for you, I would have died twice. I, Ning Fan, have no way to repay you with my lowly life. I can only promise you that as long as I am here, I will protect you for a lifetime and won't let you die. Ning Fan seriously looked at Jihe and said word by word. For the first time, he seriously looked at Jiha's face. The maiden's hair was messy, and her small oval face was a bit delicate and lovable. Under her eyelashes, there was a clear panic in her eyes. It was as if Ning Fan's words made her blush and her heart beat faster. What did she just hear? Big Brother actually said he would protect her. Heavens, this isn't the legendary confession, right? Ha! He was a man with a sense of responsibility. Truly worthy of being the disciple that I like. A wild laughter suddenly came from outside the room, breaking the warm atmosphere inside. Ning Fan's eyes became serious while Jiha was a bit scared. This laughter came from old Monster Han. Smelly brat, your master has arrived, yet you didn't come out to greet me. Do you want your master to barge in? Hee hee, isn't it very messy inside? Old Monster Han laughed with a bit of wretchedness in his voice. Ning Fan looked at the messy mandarin duck quilt, the torn dress, and the naked Jiha hiding in the quilt. His face turned red. The situation inside the room was really inconvenient for the old monster to come in. It was better to go out and see the old monster himself. He didn't know why old Monster Han came at this time. Was he here to check his cultivation progress? Ning Fan didn't have a good impression of old Monster Han, but he didn't have any bad feelings either. The moment he came out, he saw old Monster Han standing in the snow with a faint smile. The falling snowflakes, when they came within 3 zhang of the old monster, all of them strangely melted into snow water. This kind of divine ability was not something that a harmonious spirit cultivator could have. The previous Ning Fan was only a rookie that had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, so he couldn't see through so many things. But now, he had inherited the immortal emperor's memories and could see that old Monster Han was not ordinary. Strange, this little brat's eyes, when did they become so sharp? They are actually as sharp as little girl Dugu. While Ning Fan was looking at the old monster was also secretly looking at Ning Fan. He only felt that Ning Fan seemed to be a bit different after 3 days, but he couldn't tell what the difference was. Was it that jade lock that brought this smelly brat some kind of fortune? Forget it, since I have decided to treat this child as my disciple, there is no need to ask about these secrets. The more the old monster looked at Ning Fan, the more satisfied he became. He crossed his arms and nodded incessantly. Your father yells about wanting to kill you every day. Do you hate your father? Ning Fan wouldn't dare to hate master. Ning Fan's expression was as calm as an ancient well. Even though he had the immortal emperor's memories, his cultivation was still too low to anger the old monster. Moreover, he was telling the truth, he didn't have much hatred towards the old monster. Hee hee, you don't have to hate your father. Beating is for affection, scolding is for love, and killing is for the benefit of the next generation. This is the rule that your father's master's master set by the black evil sect's progenitor. You are your father's disciple, so if you go against the evil path, your father can kill you at any time. But if you follow the rules, your father will not only not kill you, but will also sincerely treat you as my disciple. Your father's merit law is called the Black Evil Merit Law, an immemorial evil merit law. You also have immemorial evil veins, and it is the yin-yang evil vein, so you can cultivate 2 merit laws at the same time. Wait until you reach the harmonious spirit realm, your father will pass this merit law to you. The old monster said to himself, but Ning Fan frowned and thought to himself, does this old monster really want to accept me as his disciple? The reason? Does it depend on my mood to accept a disciple? Or does he have another purpose? Remember, immemorial evil veins are extremely rare in the Yu country, so do not easily reveal it. Also, do not think that having immemorial evil veins will make you invincible in this world. This world is very big. Hee. In the past, your father was young and frivolous. I relied on my powerful evil merit law to cause trouble everywhere, but in the end, I was still plotted against by my enemies and had my cultivation destroyed and also killed. In short, before your cultivation reaches a certain level, remember to be low-key. Do not stir up trouble. The old monster's indifferent face had a hint of sorrow that was deeply hidden, and Ning Fan could see it. Could it be that the old monster came over to give him a lecture? Remember. Protect the women you have slept with, don't learn from your father. Your little wife was poisoned by those girls from the all-pleasure school. The poison is a bit strong, but it is not a big deal. This is the antidote, wait until she wakes up and feed it to her. In order to get the antidote for your woman, your father had to kill the righteous Grand Void School and was chased by a group of bald thieves for 3 days. Let's not talk about this. Right, your father will remind you one last time, the 7 apricot records is very important to your father. After reading it, return it to your father as soon as possible. If you dare to break a page, see if your father won't chop you into mincemeat. The old monster threw a small jade bottle to Ning Fan and laughed. He turned around and left, but his back was faintly lonely. His breath was a bit messy, as if he had just suffered some kind of injury. Ning Fan could see this point with his eyesight. Ning Fan took the jade bottle and uncorked it. He smelled the Dan energy and was slightly surprised. The Dan inside the jade bottle was clearly a 3rd revolution Dan, and it was a very high-quality one. Compared to some 4th revolution Dawn, it was not inferior. Nowadays, high-level Dawn were not easy to find in the small U country. It was enough to make Gold Core old devils view it as their life, but it was obtained by the old monster just to detoxify Jiha. That injury, was it also because of snatching elixirs? Just because he saw himself as his disciple, he was willing to steal Dawn for his disciple wife. Ning Fan didn't think that the old monster Han that wanted to kill him would do these things for him. The old monster ran for 3 days. These words were light, but Ning Fan understood the dangers involved. He was afraid that after stealing this Dan, the old monster would be chased by Gold Core experts for several days, so naturally, it would not be easy. This old monster was ruthless in killing, but he was truly good to him. Ning Fan didn't think that the old monster felt like old friends at first sight. There must be a reason for this. But no matter what, the old monster showed him kindness, so he naturally had to return 1 or 2 favors. Wait a minute. Ning Fan stopped the old monster. What are you doing? Your father is going to heal my injuries. If there is something, we will talk about it tomorrow. The old monster was quite impatient. Your cultivation, for some reason, has fallen to the harmonious spirit realm. Perhaps I have a way to cure it. Ning Fan's tone was very light. Whoosh! A powerful aura suddenly roared out from the old monster's body as his eyes swept over Ning Fan with a hint of scrutiny. He didn't tell Ning Fan that his cultivation was wasted, so how could Ning Fan know that his cultivation had fallen? He was betrayed by his disciple once, and now, he finally wanted to accept another disciple. Could this disciple also be someone from the White Evil School? Speaking of which, he had been searching for the Yin-Yang evil vein for so many years without finding it, but he just had to meet Ning Fan. Could there be some kind of scheme involved? From the old monster's eyes, Ning Fan could see a deep distrust and couldn't help but silently curse. He was really nosy. It was only a bottle of Dan, yet he wanted to repay the old monster and was even suspected by the old monster in the end. After a long time, the old monster withdrew his scrutinizing gaze. From Ning Fan's eyes, he did not see any trace of schemes, they were completely clear. Once bitten, twice shy. He actually doubted a baby that did not even have hair. The White Evil School's hand could not reach into the Rain Immortal world, so this baby should be innocent. You could see that your father was poisoned because of the jade lock. The old monster suddenly asked. Yes. Ning Fan hesitated for a moment and didn't lie. You want to help your father cure the poison? How confident are you? Ning Fan didn't speak and instead walked to the old monster's side. He grabbed the old monster's withered hand and placed his finger on his pulse for a long time before answering. Absolute Een, one of the ancient extreme poisons. Because of its powerful toxicity, it was also known as the immortal killing poison. From the moment of being poisoned, one's cultivation will fall, and once one's cultivation reaches its limit, it will be the time of death. After being poisoned, one's spirit will be refreshed at first, then their personality will gradually become violent and cannot be appeased without killing. In the end, the poison will devour the heart, not recognizing even one's kin, and even ghosts and gods will find it hard to save them. While recalling the rather messy immortal emperor's memories, Ning Fan clearly spoke these words. The old monster's eyes moved, and when he looked at Ning Fan again, his expression was very different. This little brat actually guessed everything correctly. It seems that the jade lock is somewhat amazing. It actually allowed this little brat to have this kind of experience and even recognize an ancient extreme poison. Your father is a member of the Black Evil sect. According to the sect's rules, if a disciple violates the evil Tao, then the master can kill them. But if the disciple abides by the evil Tao, then the master cannot harm the disciple. Your father will accept you as a disciple, but if you are not obedient, your father will kill you. But if you did not make a mistake, your father will absolutely not search your soul, erase your memories, and find out your secrets. Even if someone dares to make a move against you, your father will protect you. Because, you are your father's disciple. The old monster suddenly said these words, causing Ning Fan to be slightly startled. Since you have the confidence to cure the poison, then give it a try. From today onwards, you are the young lord of 7 Apricot City. You have the final say in 7 Apricot City. 9752 evil cultivators will be under your command. Dawn, magical treasures, and immortal jades, you can use them as you please. However, there is one thing that you must firmly remember, in this life, do not betray me, or else your father will not show mercy. The last sentence of the old monster sounded like a threat, but there was also an unspeakable bitterness. That tone, it was as if he was betrayed by his disciple, giving off a somewhat old feeling. Chapter 5. The next day. Ning Fan wore a white robe on the inside and a black cloak on the outside with a warm smile on his face. After coming to 7 Apricot City, this was the first time he went out of Si Fan Palace. Behind him, 2 steps away, was Jiha. Her hair had been changed into a young girl's bun and she wore a thick fox fur coat. Her small hands were red from the cold wind and snow. This place is so cold, Big Brother Fan, aren't you cold? Why are you wearing so little? Do you want Jiha to warm your hands? Rubbing her red hands, Jiha asked with concern. Silly girl, Ning Fan laughed in spite of himself. His body paused and half of Jiha was in his embrace. He was a cultivator so he naturally wasn't afraid of the cold, but Jiha was not a cultivator and was more or less afraid of the cold. Today, Ning Fan left Si Fan Palace in order to concoct the antidote for the old monster and take Jiha out for a stroll. The two of them had to cultivate their feelings since they were already husband and wife. In the future, they would most likely have to dual cultivate with Jiha. Without feelings, Ning Fan couldn't do it. The handsome young man and shy young girl, such a good atmosphere was destroyed by the third party, the old monster. The old monster casually led the way in front of the two. Along the way, the evil cultivators looked at Ning Fan like he was a plague and hurriedly avoided him. You two continue to be affectionate and pretend that your father doesn't exist. It's so good to be young. Back in the day, your father and your master's wife no one knew what the old monster was thinking about, but his old face had a wretched smile. Was this still the ruthless black-clothed old monster from back then? Ning Fan was deeply doubtful. The old monster was very happy today. His usually gloomy face was now smiling like a chrysanthemum flower. No one knew what he was happy about. The evil cultivators passing by saw the old monster's smile and quickly avoided him in fear. In their impression, the old monster had a dead face all year round. If he smiled one day, someone was bound to be unlucky. Cough, 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 that young man is the new disciple of the city lord. Did he anger the city lord? Look at how happy the city lord is, he must be very angry. Everyone began to sympathize with Ning Fan. My current identity is the 7-apricot young lord. These people are all my subordinates. Ning Fan looked at the cultivators he met along the way and secretly thought of something. 7-apricot city was divided into north and south cities. The south city was a market square that sold all kinds of dawn, magical treasures, and spirit equipment. The north city was the old monster's treasury and medicine garden. The medicinal garden was called the plum garden. It was built using flames as bricks and was constructed in a four-dimensional manner. The center of the garden was like spring all year round, and the spirit herbs were verdant and lush. At the top of the sky was a light screen of a formation. Humans couldn't enter, neither could the wind and snow, but sunlight could shine through. Outside the apricot village, there was a black armored army. There were about 400 of them, and each of them had 7 bloody plum blossoms embroidered on their shoulders. The commander of the black armored army was a 2-zhang tall man with a harmonious spirit cultivation. Ning Fan had seen this person before when he entered the city to greet the old monster. As soon as Tai Han saw the old monster, he bowed and the 400 black armored guards knelt down in unison. Apricot Guard Commander Wuxia greets the city lord. Greetings, young lord. The 400 apricot guards were somewhat reluctant to kowtow to Ning Fan. Dispense with the formalities, all of you scram. Hey, wait, I'm in a good mood today, you don't have to scram. Come here, stand up straight. Give your father's disciple a look or two. The old monster laughed. This laugh fell into the eyes of the 400 apricot guards and made them feel a chill down their spines. They wondered if they had done something wrong to anger the old monster. The 400 black armored guards didn't dare to disobey the old monster's order and quickly gathered in a circle. Their hearts were all restless. The city lord is laughing. The city lord is actually laughing, and in such a wretched manner. The city lord wants to kill people. Is he blaming our apricot guards for not guarding the apricot village well? The circle formation that the apricot guards formed was called the yin and yang chaotic apricot formation. In just a few breaths of time, everyone had neatly formed the formation as if they were well trained. This scene immediately turned into a proud expression in the old monster's eyes. It was an expression that he hadn't shown for 40 years. Little Ning, you see, this is one of the 3 guards under me, the apricot guards. A harmonious spirit commander and 405th level vein opening guards. Drag them out and destroy a mortal country with ease. It's more than enough to kick a last righteous sect. Although they can't compare to my subordinates in the past, they are not weak in the U country of the lower realm. Little Ning, give me 2 words of evaluation. What do you think of my apricot guards? The old monster's chrysanthemum face was showing off. He didn't know why, but he really wanted to hear Ning Fan's praise. The Grim Reaper was just his appearance. His true temperament was really unflattering. Wuxia and the 400 apricot guards were shocked by the old monster's praise. They had followed the old monster for 40 years, but they had never received any praise. Today was the first time. Thus, the 400 black armored guards were no longer trembling. Their hearts were no longer afraid as they stood straight. In their view, the old monster wanted to show off his subordinates to his new disciple. The old monster wanted face, and as his subordinates, they had to help the old monster gain face. As for how Ning Fan would evaluate them, they didn't care. Mighty, powerful, ruthless, fierce. In any case, they were all words of praise. They didn't think that a mere first-level vein-opening Ning Fan would dare to say half a word in front of 400 experts and the old monster. Ning Fan was a bit helpless. He came to take the medicine, not to parade the troops. What was the old monster doing this for? Suddenly, he understood the old monster's painstaking efforts. This old monster wanted to show off his face to his subordinates. To show off his identity as the 7 apricot young lord. If so, Then he couldn't casually give a word of evaluation to the black armored guards. He couldn't let these unruly black armored guards look down on him. Master asked me to evaluate all of you, so I will say a few words. Ning Fan's tone was calm, but his eyes were very serious as they swept over the black armored guards. His cultivation was clearly only at the first level vein opening, but for some reason, when his eyes swept over the 400 black armored guards, they felt a sense of nervousness as if they were being examined by an old monster. This young lord was not as simple as the rumors made him out to. Beta 400 guards here are all elites, proficient in battle formations, and have a harmonious spirit commander. If they are properly commanded, they can even make a gold core old monster fall into a bitter battle. Ning Fan's evaluation was very pertinent and pleasing to the ears, but the second half of the evaluation made everyone unable to accept it. However, there seems to be a lack of hatred in these battle guards. The moment these words came out, the expressions of the 400 experts turned livid. Amir Jr. dared to speak nonsense and say that they were not ruthless enough. When they followed the old monster to exterminate their sex, Ning Fan was still picking jujubes from an unknown tree. Such a big tone, a first-level vein opening dared to look down on their 400 black armored guards. The old monster slightly nodded his head as if he agreed with Ning Fan's point of view. He secretly thought that this little brat Ning's eyes were very sharp. Today, he brought Ning Fan out to get the medicine was secondary, but mainly to show Ning Fan's face. No matter what, Ning Fan was now the 7-apricot young lord, he had to convince everyone. I think little brat Ning Fan's words are very reasonable. You guys are truly not ruthless enough. The old monster's words made all the black armored guards listless. They dared to question Ning Fan's words, but they did not dare to ignore the old monster's words. If you are ruthless enough, then after being humiliated by others, you should draw your blades against them. The old monster continued. Wait a minute, when did I humiliate them? Ning Fan was speechless, but each of the black armored guards' eyes lit up with an ominous glint. Drawing your blades because of a disagreement, this is what it means to be evil. Go, if you are dissatisfied, then take care of this smelly brat. But not all at once, one at a time. What did the old monster mean by this? Ao. Among the black armored guards, many of the big men roared. A 5th-level vein opening man directly rushed out of the formation and impolitely cupped his fists towards Ning Fan. Young lord's evaluation, this subordinate does not agree with it. I hope to exchange a few moves with young lord, perhaps I can understand something. Ning Fan rubbed his forehead. How did things develop like this under the old monster's guidance? Young lord, do you dare to accept this subordinate's challenge? If you don't dare, then get the hell out of 7-Apricot City. The big man spat on the ground and proudly said. For a moment, the 400 black armored guards all roared. Quickly accept the challenge. Otherwise, get the hell out of 7-Apricot City. We do not need an idiot young lord. Give him some color to see. Ao. Jiha was angry. Even though she was usually stupid, she knew that these 400 black armored guards looked down on her big brother Fan. The old monster's chrysanthemum face became even more cheerful. He wanted to see how Ning Fan would deal with this situation and establish his might in front of these 400 black armored guards. Yes, establish his might. As Han Yuanji's disciple, if he couldn't even deal with this little situation, then he might as well kill himself with a piece of tofu. Thinking about the many changes after Ning Fan obtained the jade locket, the old monster had some expectations. He wanted to see what methods Ning Fan would use to overcome this difficult situation. Unfortunately, Han Yuanji selectively forgot that Ning Fan was only a first-level vein opening cultivator. Ning Fan had just started cultivating, okay? A first-level vein opening cultivator fighting against 405th level vein opening experts, was this a joke? Ning Fan let go of Jiha's hand and patted her black hair, telling her not to be angry. Then, he walked step by step towards the big man who challenged him. He was clearly a rookie who just started cultivating, but his steps had an indescribable calmness. Chapter 6. Ning Fan's calmness made the group of black armored guards slightly change their expressions. To be able to face 400 black armored guards without batting an eyelid, even if the young master's cultivation was not high, it was still very rare. Fourth Zhou, go easy on him. Don't injure the young lord. Commander Yuchi secretly nodded and told the man who challenged Ning Fan's. He didn't think that Ning Fan could defeat fourth young lord, but he also acknowledged Ning Fan's identity as the young lord. Since he dared to accept the challenge, at least he wasn't an idiot. In this way, he was qualified to be their young master. Commander, don't worry. This subordinate knows his limits. The burly man named Zhou Si laughed. With a wave of his hand, a ray of scarlet light descended from the sky. It carried an ear-piercing sound as it flew towards Ning Fan. Vaguely, Ning Fan could see that it was a fiery red precious pearl. It carried a heat wave that blew towards his face. It seemed to have great power. If he is hit by this pearl, his bones and tendons would at least be broken. It's the Crimson Fire Pearl. Young Master Zhou actually used this item. This pearl is somewhat extraordinary. On that day, Zhou relied on this pearl to defeat a 6th-level vein-opening expert. Young Master is only at level 1 of the vein-opening realm, how can he withstand the attack of this bead? I'm afraid the young Master won't even be able to withstand one move. The discussions in the surroundings were all in favor of 4th young Master Zhou, but Ning Fan acted as if he didn't hear anything. Admittedly, with his 1st-level vein-opening cultivation, he would not be able to withstand the attack of this magic weapon. However, he still had a trump card. That trump card was the Devil Flame that he used to devour old Devil Han. This was Ning Fan's first battle since he started cultivating, but with the inheritance of the immortal emperor's memories, his movements didn't seem sluggish. Before the fire bead hit the ground, Ning Fan opened his mouth and spurted out a black flame. As soon as the black flame soared into the sky, it immediately turned into a rebellious fire dragon and swallowed the scarlet pearl. Crack! The orb cracked open, and in the next instant, it was burned to ashes by the black flames. Young Master Zhou was naturally quite shocked and his magic treasure was destroyed, and when he raised his head once more, he saw the savage black flame dragon pouncing directly at him. He would die. He would die. If he was hit by the black fire dragon, even if he was at the 10th level of the vein-opening realm, he would definitely die. Commander Yuchi's expression turned grim as his figure charged out explosively to directly stand before young Master Zhou, and his expression was unprecedentedly serious as he swung his fist to greet the fire dragon and fiercely smashed out with it. Boom! 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 The black flames scattered in all directions. Amidst the exploding black flames, Commander Yuchi retreated 12 steps, coughing out a mouthful of blood with each step. With his harmonious spirit cultivation, he was able to block Ning Fan's attack, but he was also heavily injured. Hiss! Is this the power of the young master? He was able to repel a harmonious spirit old monster with his 1st-level vein-opening cultivation. All the black guards were instantly extremely astounded in their hearts, and young Master Zhou's entire body even broke out in cold sweat. If not for the commander, he would have died in the hands of the young master. Not only was the young master powerful, but his attacks were also ruthless and merciless. He was foolish enough to be the first to challenge the young master. What a fool! Was this the hatred that the young lord said the 400 apricot guards lacked? If he saw an enemy, he would definitely kill without mercy. This was the style they should have. The scene was dead silent. Each of the black armored guards looked at Ning Fan with unprecedented respect. None of them dared to be disrespectful. In the cultivation world, strength spoke louder than words, and Ning Fan's strength had won their respect. Ning Fan's ruthlessness made them even more terrified. His first move was a killing move, this was a true evil lord. They had misunderstood Ning Fan. It was not that Ning Fan was ruthless and used a killing move, but that Ning Fan only had the black flame as an offensive method and had no other abilities to use. The old monster's eyes widened. If he was not mistaken, Ning Fan was using the black flame that was stolen from him, right? Great-grandma. Extinguishing his black flame and still being able to use it for his own use. With this method, Ning Fan would not be able to find an opponent under the harmonious spirit realm. Humph. He even dared to steal Master's black flame. However, he truly has guts. This father likes it. Thus, the old monster's gaze towards Ning Fan became even more satisfied. Feeling happy, he wanted to drink a cup or two and slipped away. Only Ning Fan was left outside of the apricot manor to wait for the medicine. Did the young master come to take the medicine? Yuchi respectfully asked without the arrogance of a harmonious spirit old monster. Even though he was heavily injured, his physique was still strong. He was not in a hurry to heal and wanted to take Ning Fan on a stroll around the apricot manor. Yes. Ning Fan didn't reveal the fact that he was here to take the medicine for the old monster. In that case, I ask the young lord and the young lord's wife to follow this subordinate into the apricot manor. Yuchi respectfully said and called the young lord's wife, but it directly made Jiha blush. The apricot manor was built with fire bricks. This kind of method was not something a harmonious spirit cultivator could master, so it was clearly the old monster's work. Yuchi led Ning Fan and Jiha through the door of fire and entered the apricot manor. At first, Jiha looked at the burning door of the apricot manor with a bit of fear. Her little fingers intertwined and she didn't dare to enter. However, with Ning Fan by her side, she gradually felt relieved. Ning Fan's eyes became slightly deep. He was already a cultivator, but Jiha was still a mortal. This was not good. This trip will be to find some spirit medicines to help Jiha open her veins and become a cultivator together. Young lord, you see, there are 4,000 kinds of spirit medicines in the apricot manor, all of them are several hundred years old. You can directly take whatever you need. Oh, if you don't know, then tell me the name of the medicine and this subordinate will help you pick it. In Yuchi's view, Ning Fan was still a rookie who just started cultivating. Even if he was powerful, he might not be able to recognize many spirit medicines. However, he didn't think that once Ning Fan entered the apricot manor, he would be able to recognize almost all of the medicines. He even recognized some of the rare ones, which made Yuchi quite surprised. 100-year mulberry grass, 100-year jade orchid ice, 100-year snow ginseng, 100-year luo snake vine. The antidote for master is here, but it seems to be missing a 1,000-year peach branch. This is... Ning Fan's eyes swept over the spirit medicines in the manor and suddenly fell on a pile of hay in the corner. He was shocked for a long time. What kind of medicine is this? He hesitated and asked Yuchi. Oh, just some weeds without any spirituality, used to feed pigs. Yuchi casually replied. Feed pigs? You are using jade to feed pigs? Yes, this grass is not chewy, even pigs will not eat it. Yuchi patted the demonic pouch on his waist and summoned a palm-sized purple pig for Ning Fan to see. Young lord, this is this subordinate's demon pet, the Milky Way pig. Don't be fooled by its ugly appearance, but even a 4th-level vein-opening expert can be killed by it. If it grows up, it will certainly become a great help. Unfortunately, it only eats grass every day and seems to be a bit malnourished recently, so it doesn't pay attention to me anymore. Ning Fan was silent for a long time and looked at Yuchi with a complicated expression. Yuchi, you are really something. From today onwards, you are not allowed to feed this grass to pigs. This grass, all of it, will be sent to my mansion. Ning Fan couldn't imagine that the famous jade royal grass in the memories of the immortal emperors would be used by Yuchi to feed pigs. This grass seemed to have no spirituality, but this was its extraordinary point. Think about it, how could the mortal world's weeds grow in Ice City? Jade royal grass was hard to find by the immortal emperors. Eating it dry had no medicinal effect, but if it was mixed with something else, then it could be refined into a body-refining dan, the Jade Royal Dan. This dan could cleanse the marrow, improve the physique, and increase the cultivation of the body. Even the immortal emperors of the world in the ancient times would have a lot of medicinal effects after taking this dan. In the memories of the ancient Chaos immortal emperors, this grass was extremely rare, but he didn't think that he would find some here, and it was fed to pigs by Yuchi. Yuchi was truly a genius. Ning Fan snappily looked at Yuchi. Such a reckless waste of natural resources, this Yuchi might be punished by the heavens in his next life and become a pig. Being stared at by Ning Fan, Yuchi hastily averted his eyes and was puzzled. Isn't it just a pile of broken grass? Isn't it just feeding pigs? Is there a need to wait for me like this? Could it be that young lord also wants to eat this grass? He likes to eat this grass that even pigs won't eat. Yuchi looked at Ning Fan, and sure enough, he saw Ning Fan squatting down and chewing the dirty hay in his mouth, causing him to be filled with admiration. Chapter 7. There was only one bundle of jade royal grass left. The rest had been fed to the pigs by Yuchi. Ning Fan was speechless towards Yuchi. The old monster's antidote was missing a 1,000-year-old peach branch. Unfortunately, the Plum Manor didn't have it. This was a bit tricky. In any case, the old monster was Ning Fan's superior. Now that he was living under someone else's roof, it would not be good if he couldn't get the antidote. After a busy day, Jiha went back to Si Fan Palace to rest, but Ning Fan was still worried about where to get a Millennium Peach branch. Young master, the Plum Manor doesn't have a 1,000-year-old peach branch. Why don't you go to the southern city's marketplace to get one? Usually, when the city lord refines elixirs, if he lacks anything, he can just go and get it. He doesn't have to pay for it. Yuchi spoke as if he was talking about something insignificant. Marketplace? Ning Fan was slightly surprised. Yes, South City's market square is basically the city lord's property. There is only one shop called Godly Void Pavilion, that is not the city lord's property. You must pay for it. Yuchi reminded. Godly Void Pavilion? Ning Fan raised his eyebrows. This name sounded familiar. It seemed to have appeared once in the mixed memories of the immortal emperors. It seemed to be an ancient force that had been passed down since ancient times. The Godly Void Pavilion sells Dao fruits, magic treasures, spirit equipment, immortal clouds. In short, as long as you can afford immortal jade, you can buy anything. Rumor has it that even Void Fragmentation Realm old monsters would not dare to offend them. It seemed to be a force that was above the four heavens. Our 7 Apricot City also has a branch of the Godly Void Pavilion. Anything that a Jindan old monster needs can be bought here. Immortal Cloud. Golden Core cultivators could fly on clouds. The Rain Celestial Realm was rich in celestial clouds. The speed of the immortal cloud was even faster than demonic beast mounts and flying swords. Dao Fruit. After a cultivator died, there was an extremely small chance that their cultivation would condense into a fruit for others to eat. It was called Dao Fruit. Immortal Jade was the currency of cultivation in the Rain Immortal world. Magic treasures were one of the methods that cultivators used in battle. Spiritual equipment was similar to Dharma treasures, yet different. It seemed to be a product of the demon race. Although Ning Fan had inherited the memories of the immortal emperors, he had yet to see too many magical treasures and spiritual equipment. He wanted to go to the Godly Void Pavilion to broaden his horizons. He glanced over and saw a fiery red thumb ring on Yuchi's right thumb. That thumb ring was a piece of spiritual equipment. Young master is interested in my mysterious fire ring? Unfortunately, spiritual equipment is different from magic treasures. This item has already been refined by this subordinate, so I cannot give it to young master. Yuchi said helplessly. No problem. I don't want your mysterious fire ring. Tell me about its effects. I'm very interested in this. Yes. Young master should know that we cultivators need to use magic treasures in battle. Magic treasures could be used for both offense and defense, and had endless transformations. Spirit equipment, on the other hand, was a magic treasure. Young master, please take a look. This ring is a type of fire attribute spiritual equipment. Only a harmonious spirit cultivator could make a spirit equipment recognize him as its owner. The effect of the mysterious fire ring is to increase the power of fire attribute supernatural powers. This subordinate still has another mysterious fire ring which is slightly weaker than this mysterious fire ring. If young master doesn't mind, can I give it to young master to play with? While speaking, Yuchi took out another red jade thumb ring from his storage pouch and presented it to Ning Fan with a flattering expression. On the surface, Yuchi was a rough person, but he was not stupid. Before, when the 400 apricot guards were rude to Ning Fan didn't mind it on the surface, but it was hard to guarantee that he wouldn't hold a grudge in his heart. Therefore, Yuchi obediently presented a gift to make up for the previous offense. Ning Fan received the mysterious fire ring and looked at Yuchi with deep meaning. After a while, he said, "The previous matter, I didn't take it to heart. You can rest assured." Hearing this, Yuchi immediately let out a sigh of relief, but he still had a smile on his face. Young master is magnanimous and naturally won't bother with a rough person like me. Ning Fan no longer paid attention to Yuchi and carefully examined the mysterious fire ring. This was his first time observing a spirit equipment up close. After a long time, he suddenly put the mysterious fire ring on his finger. Young master doesn't have a harmonious spirit cultivation, so you cannot make a spirit equipment recognize you as its owner. Wait until young master reaches harmonious spirit, then it won't be too late. Yuchi advised. Spirit equipment recognizing a master could only be done by a second-level harmonious spirit expert. The process of recognizing a master was extremely difficult. It was not as simple as dripping blood to recognize a master, but it required the power of the 5 elements to engrave a mark on the spirit equipment. Only harmonious spirit experts could absorb the power of the 5 elements from the heaven and earth. Ning Fan was not a harmonious spirit expert, so he couldn't do this. Even for a harmonious spirit expert, it was not easy for a spirit equipment to recognize a master. It also depended on the grade of the spirit equipment. The higher the grade, the harder it was to recognize a master. Ning Fan put on the mysterious fire ring, and his expression slightly changed. He felt an invisible flame coming towards him, and he felt that the mysterious fire ring was not ordinary. Unfortunately, the power contained in the mysterious fire ring couldn't be used. Was it because it had not recognized a master yet? Spirit equipment recognizing a master requires the power of the heaven and earth of the 5 elements. Ning Fan revealed a thoughtful expression. He remembered that his evil vein was called the yin-yang evil vein, and it seemed to cultivate the power of yin and yang in harmony. Yin and yang seemed to include the 5 elements. Vaguely, Ning Fan had a strange feeling. If he wanted to, he could use the power of the yin-yang evil vein to absorb the power of the 5 elements from the heaven and earth and make it recognize a master. This feeling constantly filled his heart, so he immediately decided to give it a try to see if he could subdue the mysterious fire ring. Ning Fan closed his eyes and felt the mysterious fire ring on his finger without moving for a long time. Yuchi stood on the side and looked at Ning Fan with a dignified expression. He could see that the young lord seemed to be recognizing a master of the mysterious fire ring, and he couldn't help but admire the young lord's courage. To want to recognize a spirit equipment with a vein-opening cultivation, the young lord was truly a maverick evil cultivator. Unfortunately, this move was destined to fail. After an unknown amount of time, Yuchi was a bit drowsy from waiting. Suddenly, the elemental fire in the surroundings crazily rushed towards Ning Fan. In the next moment, the mysterious fire ring on Ning Fan's hand was blazing red, and there were waves of fire constantly surging out from the mysterious fire ring. Just a little bit more. Ning Fan opened his eyes with a very dignified expression. He mobilized the remaining vein-opening magical power in his body and slowly engraved a magical mark on the mysterious fire ring. After a long time, he breathed out a mouthful of turbid air with a sweaty forehead. The mysterious fire ring's recognition process was completed, and the elemental fire in the world also returned to normal. In his mind, there was a subtle connection, tightly connected to the Xuanhua ring. What just happened? Could it be that the young lord succeeded in recognizing the mysterious fire ring? How is this possible? The young lord is not a harmonious spirit cultivator. Yuqi was shocked. He had cultivated in Yu country for many years, but he had never heard of someone who could recognize a spirit equipment before the harmonious spirit realm. Ning Fan, however, ignored Yuqi's expression and only focused on feeling the majestic power of the mysterious fire ring. What a great mysterious fire ring! This was the first spirit equipment Ning Fan obtained since he started cultivating. Ning Fan slowly lifted his finger and stretched it forward. The tip of his finger suddenly ignited with black dragon fire. The power of the black fire seemed to have increased a lot compared to before. This mysterious fire ring had the ability to amplify the power of the fire element, passively increasing the power of the flames. This was the difference between a spirit equipment and a magical treasure. One was used passively while the other was used actively. No, not only that. Ning Fan's eyes slightly narrowed. Using a magical treasure required magical power, but a spirit equipment didn't need magical power. For a first-level opening vein Ning Fan who had little magical power, a magical treasure could only be used twice. But a spirit equipment was different and could be used continuously. Not bad. With the mysterious fire ring, the power of my black fire has increased by at least 30%. Feeling the majestic aura of the black fire in his body, Ning Fan subconsciously looked towards Yuqi. He really wanted to know if he could use the black fire to attack Yuqi with the help of the mysterious fire ring. Could Yuqi still receive his attack? Of course, he would only think about it and wouldn't actually attack Yuqi. Speaking of which, the young lord's black fire is very similar to the city lord's earth vein demonic fire. Could it also be an earth vein demonic fire? Yuqi suddenly asked. Earth vein demonic fire? Ning Fan was slightly startled. In his fragmented immortal emperor's memories, there was no mention of an earth vein demonic fire. Young lord should know that the cultivation world we are in is divided into 4 heavens and 9 worlds. The 4 heavens are above and the 9 worlds are below. And we are in the rain world of the 9 worlds. This subordinate doesn't know how the upper worlds differentiate the levels of flames, but in our lower worlds, there are often powerful flames that are called earth vein demonic fire. Corresponding to the earth vein demonic fire is the heavenly frost cold energy. It is said that if both the heavenly frost cold energy and the earth vein demonic fire are gathered, then even a void fragmentation old devil can fight against them. Yuqi thought that Ning Fan had just entered the path of cultivation, so he kindly introduced Ning Fan to the common knowledge of the earth vein demonic fire. Ning Fan only listened briefly. From Yuqi's words, he knew the name of his black fire, which seemed to be the black evil flame. After some discussion, Ning Fan's understanding of the cultivation world increased a lot, and Yuqi finally had to say goodbye. Yuqi, I will leave the matter of buying medicines in the market square to you. Don't forget the 1,000-year peach branch. Oh right, help me look out for a type of black grass. It has no spirituality and has a spicy and slightly bitter taste. Its appearance, is a bit similar to the jade royal grass from before. The jade royal dan had 2 main ingredients, the jade royal grass, and the remaining one was called the coiling evil grass. Ning Fan did not expect Yuqi to be able to find it, but he still mentioned it. If he could refine the jade royal dan, then he would be able to cleanse the meridians and marrow of his mortal body. If he could not find the coiling evil grass, then this matter was not a big deal. Since he had embarked on the path of cultivation, Ning Fan wanted to be a strong cultivator, one step at a time, and reach the peak. Black grass. Similar to the jade royal grass fed to pigs. I think I have seen it before. The Sidhu family raised some. Last year, I went to pluck some to feed the pigs, and it caused the Sky River pig to have diarrhea for half a month. Oh, I don't know if the Sidhu family still has this grass. Ning Fan looked at Yuchi as if he was looking at an idiot. This guy actually used the coiling evil grass to feed pigs. Truly a genius. However, he did not expect his luck to be this good. After the jade royal grass, he also found the coiling evil grass here. Thinking about it, in the immortal emperor's memories, the coiling evil grass was the companion of the jade royal grass. If 7 Apricot City had the jade royal grass, then it was not strange to have the coiling evil grass. If he could really find the coiling evil grass, then he would be able to refine the jade royal Dan. On the day of the Dan's completion, his strength should receive a significant increase. In the future, he had many things to do, but the most important thing right now was without a doubt to increase his cultivation. The old monster gave him a target of breaking through to the 5th level of vein opening in half a year, but he did not want to be satisfied with just vein opening. Chapter 8. Third brother, what did you say? You almost couldn't even take one move from the young lord. In the Situ mansion, the skinny man named Situ was shocked. He had black hair and double pupils, but he wore a black Buddhist robe and held black prayer beads. The young lord wants black grass. And he wants you to ask for it from me? Interesting, the things he wants, I still have some here, but he must personally come and take it. Second brother, this Yuchi revealed a difficult expression. But the skinny man waved his sleeve and chased Yuchi out with an evil smile on his face. First level vein opening cultivation, but he had the power to fight against a harmonious spirit expert, truly an interesting young lord. 7 Apricot City, Nangong Mansion. Great Commander, this is the information this lowly one inquired about. In the Nangong Mansion, a man in black kneeled on the ground. Oh. This is the medicinal ingredients that the young lord needs. 7 types of extreme yin poison and 7 types of extreme yang tonic, but their medicinal effects are completely opposite. This kind of Dan refinement, is it really to help the city lord cure the poison? I still have to be careful, keep searching. The one called Nangong was a middle-aged man with a strong voice. Looking at the prescription in his hand, he carried a bit of vigilance. This person, could it be that the sword world sent him to harm the young lord? 7 Apricot City, Godly Void Pavilion Branch. Did you find out? Who is it that came to buy the 1,000-year peach branch today? In the Godly Void Pavilion, there was a demoness with a petite figure, wearing a black dress with a tight waist. Her face was covered with a black veil, hiding her true appearance, but her voice was soft and pleasant to listen to. As the pavilion lord expected, the one who bought the 1,000-year peach branch was not Han Yuanji's 3 harmonious spirit commanders. With Nangong and Han Yuanji's Dan refinement level, they do not need 1,000-year-old medicinal ingredients. The one who bought this medicinal ingredient was a first-level vein-opening young man, Han Yuanji's new disciple. Oh. First-level vein opening. She held Ning Fan's portrait with a bit of interest. The 1,000-year peach branch is used to refine the 4 revolution Dan. Han Yuanji's poison needs this item to cure it. He wants to cure Han Yuanji. Han Yuanji has been searching for the yin-yang evil vein for 40 years, and he seems to have found it. The demoness giggled and stretched her back. Her large, sparkling eyes were filled with craftiness, as if she was planning something. Outside of 7 Apricot City, in the middle of the wind and snow, a black-robed man walked in large strides. The strange thing was that he did not leave any footprints on the snow. He carried a huge sack on his shoulder. There seemed to be something wriggling inside the sack, and it kept emitting squeaking sounds. After seeing 7 Apricot City from afar, he stopped his steps and looked at 7 Apricot City with a fearful expression. After a long time, he released a group of white-eyed rats from the sack and said through gritted teeth. "Humph! The cauldron that Ben June raised in the all-pleasure school was unexpectedly brought to 7 Apricot City by that old devil Han. Even if we have to offend old demon Han, we have to get her back." Hundreds of white-eyed mice braved the wind and snow and ran toward 7 Apricot City, quickly disappearing without a trace. Ning Fan was unaware of all of these. Yuchi only used 1 hour to buy back the 1,000-year peach branch. Then, Ning Fan brought a large amount of spirit medicines to the Si Fan Palace's alchemy pavilion. The old monster was called Alchemist Han by others, and he was a famous Third Revolution Dan master in the Yu country. The cauldron used to refine Dan in the Si Fan Palace was of extremely high quality. In the alchemy pavilion, there was an ice flame earth fire that could be used to refine Dan. In the cultivation world, the majority of cultivators knew a little bit about Dan refinement, but those that were truly proficient in Dan refinement were very rare. First Revolution Vein Opening, Second Revolution Harmonious Spirit, and Third Revolution Dan Masters were considered high-level Dan Masters. They were enough to refine Third Revolution Dawn for Gold Core Old Devils to use. The Dan to cure the old monster's poison was Fourth Revolution. Such a high-level Dan, even nascent soul old devils would go crazy for it. The old monster himself did not know how to refine it, but Ning Fan, who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, wanted to try and see if he could refine it. He originally didn't know how to refine Dan, but after inheriting the memories of the immortal emperors, he directly understood many Dan refinement methods. He didn't immediately begin to refine a Fourth Revolution Dan. He wanted to first try to refine a few low-level Dan in order to thoroughly understand the inherited Dan refinement memories. After all, it was a memory that he obtained out of thin air, so he still needed to practice before he could master it. In the memories of the ancient Chaos Grand Emperor, the Dan refinement technique recorded was called the Golden Court Dan Dao Record. The scripture said, 9 turns of the river to become an immortal, there is no need to go through the scriptures and meditate. 1 part of the Golden Court bright world, half a pot of wine hidden in the mountains and rivers. The Dan refinement technique of the ancient Chaos Grand Emperor lied in the 4 words, 9 turns of the river. He closed his eyes and searched through the Dan refinement memories in his mind. Ning Fan slowly raised his right hand and his index finger drew across the air, creating a dense mist that circulated in the air. In the memories of the ancient Chaos Grand Emperor, there were 2 most respected Dan refinement methods. One was the 3 pure Dan condensation method, and the other was the 9 turns of the river. Ning Fan murmured to himself, but his finger didn't stop. The mist in the air became more and more, and finally, it flowed and condensed into a circle. This was the first turn of the river. If it was a first revolution, then he would be qualified to refine a First Revolution Dan. Ning Fan still closed his eyes and pondered. After a long time, he drew another circle. This was the second circle. He repeatedly tasted it, and after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, he drew the third circle. This was the third turn of the river. An hour later, he drew the fourth circle, and then he began to draw the fifth circle. When he was drawing the fifth circle, he suddenly gasped for breath. His face turned red, and he hurriedly opened his eyes with a dignified expression. The fifth circle couldn't be drawn, which meant that Ning Fan's Dan refinement technique wasn't enough to refine a fifth revolution Dan. But if he could draw the fourth circle, then he would be able to refine a fourth revolution Dan. In terms of Dan refinement technique, he was even more profound than Old Monster Han. Open the cauldron, time to refine Dan. Ning Fan patted the cauldron lid and used his meager magical power to ignite the earth fire. After pondering for a moment, he took out more than 10 kinds of herbs, just enough for a foundation-building Dan recipe. I will use a first revolution Dan to practice. If Jihe wants to become a cultivator, she will need a first revolution Dan to establish her Dao foundation. A first revolution Dan foundation building Dan would be a good choice. I have never taken a foundation building Dan before, so this Dan will be useful to me. Ning Fan threw the herbs into the cauldron one by one and controlled the earth fire's temperature. As time passed, sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. With his first-level vein-opening magical power, it was very difficult to control the earth fire. Therefore, even with the immortal emperor's memories, his first Dan refinement still ended in failure. Failed? Ning Fan helplessly said. His cultivation was too low, so he couldn't control the earth fire with ease. Even with the immortal emperor's memories, it was still futile. After resting for a while, Ning Fan opened the cauldron again, but it was still a failure. Failure, failure, failure. After continuously refining 12 sets of herbs, Ning Fan's technique gradually became more proficient. Finally, he refined a cauldron of foundation building Dan, a total of 5 Dan. After that, Ning Fan used another 7 sets of herbs to refine 2 cauldrons of foundation building Dan before wiping his sweat and resting. As a novice Dan refiner, it was already very rare for Ning Fan to reach a success rate of 2 out of 7. One had to know that even old Monster Han may not have such a success rate when refining foundation building Dan. Foundation building Dan only had an effect when taken for the first time. Eating more would have no effect. Ning Fan took a foundation building Dan and swallowed it. Even though he had successfully opened his vein opening realm, he had never taken a foundation building Dan to strengthen his Dao foundation. This was his first time taking a Dan, and it was a Dan he concocted himself, so he naturally felt a sense of accomplishment. As the Dan entered his abdomen, the medicinal power slowly melted. Ning Fan sat cross-legged in meditation and absorbed the medicinal power according to the yin-yang transformation. He only felt that there were impurities constantly being discharged from his pores, making him feel very uncomfortable. After a long time, the Dan was completely refined. Ning Fan let out a long breath and felt that his eyes and ears were clearer. Even though his cultivation didn't increase, his magical power was much purer. His body was dirty as if he hadn't taken a bath for hundreds of years. One foundation building Dan was enough to strengthen Ning Fan's Dao foundation. This was the magical effect of dawn. The rest could be given to Jihe to build her Dao foundation in the future. I have tried the first revolution Dan. Next, I will try the second revolution Dan. Vein opening Dan was a second revolution immortal Dan that could increase a vein opening cultivator's cultivation. Every time the old monster sent someone to deliver it, it was this Dan. With the experience of refining the foundation building Dan, Ning Fan was quite confident in refining the vein opening Dan. With his fourth revolution riverboat Dan refinement technique, it didn't take too much time to refine the vein opening Dan, and the success rate wasn't low. 1 hour later, out of the 10 sets of herbs, Ning Fan had destroyed 7 sets and successfully refined 3 cauldrons of vein opening Dan, with 10 pills in each cauldron. His face was pale and his magical power was completely exhausted. His mind was extremely tired. 3 out of 10 was a good success rate. If Ning Fan's cultivation was a bit higher, the success rate would be even higher. At this moment, he was too tired and couldn't refine third or fourth revolution dawn anymore. Ning Fan was not in a hurry to refine an antidote for the old monster. The difficulty of refining a fourth revolution Dan was definitely higher than a first or second revolution Dan, and the herbs were very limited. He couldn't afford to fail, so he had to refine the Dan in his best condition. After putting the foundation building Dan and vein opening Dan into 2 different Dan bottles, Ning Fan hurriedly returned to his bedroom. Outside the room, he suddenly stopped because inside the room, he could faintly hear the sound of water and the humming of a little girl. The little girl, Jihe, was actually bathing and humming a song. She seemed to be in a good mood. Should I go in or not? If Jihe was a bit older, I would like to bathe with her. Look at my dirty body. Ning Fan casually smiled while holding the Dan bottle, but in the end, he didn't go in. He didn't care about ethics or morality, he just didn't want to disturb Jihe's cheerful song. If he went in and forcefully bathed with Jihe, she would most likely be too shy to lift her head. The time he spent with Jiha was still too short, even though they had already done the deed of husband and wife. Forget it, standing outside the door in the snow and listening to the little girl's song was not a bad thing. The sky was already dark, and in the middle of the snow, one could vaguely see the moonlight. Ning Fan lifted his head to look at the moonlight, and for the first time, he felt a bit homesick. Wu country, Hai Ning's Ning clan was thousands of miles away from this place. His little brother, Ning Gu, was currently trapped in a heavenly beast evil school, and he didn't know when he would be able to rescue him. Even though he looked glorious at the moment, every step he took was difficult. The title of 7 Apricot Young Lord had not been solidified, and his first-level vein opening cultivation was far from enough to save his little brother. Asking old monster Han to save his little brother? Ning Fan wryly smiled. In the past few days, he had asked around. The Heavenly Beast School was one of the top evil schools in the Yu country, and there was even a gold core old monster in charge. Why would old monster Han help his cheap disciple do such a dangerous thing? Power. He must have even more power. The heaven is my wife, the earth is my concubine, the common people are my cauldron, the yin-yang grand Tao, dual cultivation. Uncontrollably, Ning Fan recited the general principles of the yin-yang transformation, and his expression gradually became firm. If cultivating the yin-yang transformation could give him the power to save his little brother, then why would Ning Fan want to walk on this evil path of dual cultivation? As long as he could protect his family, even if he became an evil lord like old monster Han, it didn't matter. Humph, the heaven is my wife, the earth is my concubine, Han Yuanji's disciple, such an arrogant tone. On the other side of the wall, a disdainful female voice suddenly came. It was obvious that she heard Ning Fan's words. This female voice was not gentle, but it carried a valiant and heroic spirit. The voice was like a sword, piercing Ning Fan's eardrums with a slight pain. Then, there were the footsteps of the female leaving. Ning Fan frowned. Si Fan Palace was the forbidden palace of the old monster, and ordinary people simply couldn't enter. The old monster never touched women, and he was so pure that he didn't seem like an evil cultivator. What woman dared to sneak into Si Fan Palace and directly call out the old monster's name? Ning Fan wanted to chase over the wall to see what was going on, but he only took a few steps before Jiha's scream came from the bedroom. Ah! Big Brother Fan! Save me! Hearing this, Ning Fan's expression greatly changed. He ignored the mysterious female voice and quickly turned around, pushing the door open and rushing into the bedroom. In the room, there was a pear wood tub. The hot water in the tub was enshrouded in mist, and plum blossom petals were floating in the water. Before, Jiha was bathing, but now, she jumped out of the tub and stood barefooted on the bed, looking at the ground with a pale face. Old mouse! Big Brother Fan, save me! Woo-woo! Her immature face, at this moment, was delicate and pitiful, full of fear. Hearing this, Ning Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He thought that Jiha's cry for help was because something big had happened, but he didn't expect that she was scared by the mouse. Ning Fan's eyes drifted to the white-eyed mouse at the foot of the wall, and he couldn't help but laugh. In any case, Jiha had stayed in the all-pleasure school for several years. Even though she didn't have the slightest bit of cultivation, she had seen cultivators before, yet she was afraid of a mouse. What an adorable girl! Huh? Not right. Ning Fan's eyes suddenly became serious. Si Fan Palace was built in the 7 Apricot Ice City, an extremely cold place where snakes and mice didn't live, so how could there be a mouse here? He stared at the mouse on the ground, and his eyes suddenly became cold. So it was like this. This mouse had purple skin and white eyes. It was not a normal mouse, but a type of spirit beast called the tracking mouse. In the 7 Apricot records, it was mentioned that in the cultivation world, many low-level cultivators loved to use this mouse to track others. Could it be that someone used the tracking mouse to track Jihe's whereabouts? Big Brother Fan, I'm so scared. That year, Big Brother's corpse was eaten by this mouse. In the all-pleasure school, there was a large group of them. Jihe seemed to remember something horrifying, and her eyes were filled with tears. Ning Fan's eyes sank, faintly feeling that this matter was not so simple. After a moment of silence, he finally flicked his finger towards the mouse. Suddenly, a black flame flashed, and the mouse was burned to ashes. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Seeing Jihe crying pitifully, Ning Fan finally comforted her. He carried the little girl down from the bed, hugged her in his arms, and gently patted her back to comfort her. Jihe was not afraid of the mouse, but the frightening memories of her childhood. While Ning Fan was comforting Jihe, he was contemplating the reason why Jihe was targeted, as well as the identity of the person in the dark. Ah! Big Brother Fan, when did you come in? You, quickly let me go. You are hugging me like this, I have become very strange. After a while, Jihe slowly reacted. At this moment, her naked body was nestled in Ning Fan's arms. She was not wearing clothes. She was not wearing clothes. She was not wearing clothes. It was just a casual hug, but Jihe's small face had an abnormal blush, and her eyes had a watery charm, extremely seductive. That charm made Ning Fan absent-minded, and when his eyes regained clarity, he instantly understood something and was shocked. Jihe is a natural-born seductive bone. She was targeted by someone, could this be the reason? She had such a rare cauldron physique. With a natural-born seductive bone, cultivating a dual cultivation method allowed one to travel 1,000 miles in a day. She was the dream concubine of many experts. For a woman with a natural-born seductive bone, if she kept her body like jade, then it would be hard to see that she had a seductive bone, but once she lost her primordial yin, the seductive bone would gradually appear. At that time, a day without pleasure, a day of confusion. 10 days without pleasure, a day of weakness. 100 days without pleasure, death without a doubt. Every day, she would need a man's pleasure. Such a troublesome physique. In order to save Ning Fan, Jihe lost her chastity, and the natural-born seductive bone physique was slowly appearing. Big Brother Fan, I feel so uncomfortable, so hot, help me. Jihe's eyes were blurred, her physique was acting up, and she almost lost her consciousness as she weakly said. Ning Fan's eyes were deep. Now that Jihe's physique was acting up, there was only one way to help her. He gently put Jihe down, then took off his clothes and pressed her down. He originally wanted to wait for Jihe to grow a bit older before doing this, but now, it seemed like he couldn't wait any longer. She was his woman, and this would not change. If that was the case, there was no need to be shy. Chapter 9. Ning Fan, on the other hand, wanted more, but he couldn't bear to continue in order to avoid waking Jihe up. The foundation establishment Dan could only be eaten after Jihe woke up. Stroking Jihe's small face and covering her with a blanket, Ning Fan put on his clothes and gently pushed open the door, standing in the middle of the snow courtyard. After a night of pleasure with Jihe, Ning Fan used a secret dual cultivation technique to release her yin qi, resolving the danger of the charming bone. At the same time, he opened 2 immortal veins in one night. He only needed to open one more vein and then he could enter the second level of vein opening with 4 immortal veins. Jihe's innate charming bone made the yin-yang transformations effect stand out. What Ning Fan didn't expect was that after a night of pleasure, Jihe also opened 2 immortal veins and became a first-level vein opening cultivator, directly breaking away from her mortal body. This made Ning Fan very surprised, but he also felt that it was reasonable. Ordinary dual cultivation techniques either used yin to supplement yang or yang to supplement yin. Both of them stole the essence of others, harming others to benefit oneself. However, the yin-yang transformation could increase the cultivation of both men and women at the same time. Yes, it was a good thing to benefit mankind. One cultivated the yin-yang evil veins while the other was a cauldron with a natural charming bone physique. Yes, the two were a perfect match. Only one more immortal vein and then I can enter the second level of vein opening. I have many vein opening dawn, I don't know if I can enter the second level in one go. Ning Fan took out 2 pill bottles from his chest. There were a total of 70 vein opening dawn. Some were refined by him while others were sent by the old monster. Ordinary people would need to spend a month or even several months to refine one vein opening dan. Ning Fan was different. He had an immemorial immortal vein, so his refining speed was much faster than ordinary people. As for how fast it was, he still needed to test it out. Ning Fan sat cross-legged on the snow and took a vein opening dan to quickly refine the medicinal power. As soon as the vein opening dan entered his stomach, the medicinal power immediately spread and quickly flowed along the yin-yang evil vein before being absorbed by Ning Fan. In just a short time, it was completely refined by Ning Fan. So fast. Using only a stick of time to refine the vein opening dan. Ning Fan's shock. In the records of 7 Apricot City, even a primordial immortal vein would require half a day to refine a vein opening pill. However, his yin-yang devil vein had actually only used 30 minutes to completely absorb the medicinal strength. Compared to other primeval immortal veins, its refining speed was actually countless times faster. It was truly inconceivable. Could it be that his yin-yang devil vein was more powerful than other primordial immortal veins? This thought flashed across Ning Fan's mind for a moment. Then, he forced a smile and dismissed it. Cultivators with primordial immortal veins often had special abilities. Cultivators of the primordial fire vein were born with an extremely strong ability to control fire, and many of them were gifted with the ability to control fire. Cultivators of the primordial lightning vein were adept at controlling lightning. There were also many other primordial immortal veins that had their own unique abilities. Only Ning Fan's yin-yang evil veins had no other special abilities apart from a faster cultivation speed. Forget it, at least the speed of refining pills is very fast, isn't it? He still had his merits. Ning Fan swallowed another vein-opening pill and refined it. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the 4th immortal vein was successfully formed and Ning Fan advanced to the second level of the vein-opening realm. Take the pill and open the veins. Take the pill and open the veins. In the wind and snow, no one noticed that Ning Fan's cultivation was rising at an astonishing speed. After refining 7 vein-opening pills, Ning Fan opened 9 immortal veins and broke through to the 3rd level of the vein-opening realm. After refining 22 vein-opening pills, Ning Fan opened 16 immortal veins and broke through to the 4th level of the vein-opening realm. The more immortal veins in the body, the weaker the effect of the vein-opening pills. More pills were needed to open one immortal vein. After refining the 70th vein-opening pill, Ning Fan successfully opened 33 immortal veins, exceeding the number of 25 immortal veins. His cultivation was now at the 5th level of the vein-opening realm. In the wind and snow, Ning Fan suddenly stood up. His aura was like a rainbow, causing the wind and snow to become chaotic. 33 immortal veins. 5th level of the vein-opening realm. Compared to the 1st level of the vein-opening realm, Ning Fan's magical power had increased by several folds. His strength naturally increased by a lot. At this time, it was close to noon. In just one morning, Ning Fan's cultivation had reached the 5th level of the vein-opening realm. This was more than 10,000 times faster than the half-year deadline given by the old monster. Truly frightening cultivation speed. This was the innate talent of the yin-yang evil veins. Ning Fan took a deep breath and extended his hand. A black flame soared out from his finger, shining brightly. At this moment, using the black flame was already easy without the slightest hesitation. With his current cultivation speed, as long as he had enough pills, he could open 100 immortal veins in a very short period of time and enter the 10th level of the vein-opening realm. After that, as long as he had enough luck, he could enter the harmonious spirit realm and become a harmonious spirit expert who could tread the heavens and truly soar in the world. If I want to save Ninggu from the heaven separation sect, I'm afraid I need to at least be a harmonious spirit cultivator. If it was an ordinary cultivator, there would be many people who couldn't reach the harmonious spirit realm in their lifetime. But I am different. I have the immemorial evil veins in my body and the immortal emperor's memories. If I want to reach the harmonious spirit realm, it won't take too long. Ninggu, wait for me. I will definitely save you and then, we will go home together. Ning Fan's words were only muttering to himself, but from outside the wall came a cold female voice. The heaven separation sect is not as simple as it seems on the surface. So what if you can reach the harmonious spirit realm? A harmonious spirit realm cultivator is only courting death. A gold core realm cultivator is also very dangerous. With your current cultivation, I'm afraid you won't be able to save your little brother. Then, the sound of a woman's footsteps could be heard. Who is it? Ning Fan went over the wall and saw the back of a woman. This woman wore a white robe. Her shoulders were as thin as a blade, and her waist was slim and slender. She stood in the cold wind and snow, leaving only her back to Ning Fan's. As if she sensed Ning Fan's pursuit, she stopped and suddenly turned around. Her black hair was like a waterfall, swirling in the wind and snow. There was a plum blossom on her ear, emitting a faint fragrance, but also an indescribable coldness and arrogance. You are not allowed to follow me. It was a clear rejection. The woman's gaze was like a sword. When her gaze swept across Ning Fan's face, it actually hurt. Then, the woman walked in front of a plum blossom tree. Her figure suddenly dispersed like a cold mist and disappeared without a trace. Ghost. Demon. Ning Fan stopped and stared at the plum blossom tree, pondering about the woman's identity. Under the plum blossom tree, there was a short grave. There were 2 words engraved on the tombstone. They were elegant without losing their sword bones. Dugu. What did these 2 words mean? Next to the grave, there was a 2 zhang tall blue stone. On the blue stone, there were 3 sword scars. The 3 sword scars were completely different. Ning Fan stood next to the blue stone and pondered for a long time without any intention of leaving. From the grave, an impatient female voice came out. Why are you still here? You are Han Yuanji's disciple. If you stay in front of my house, you will annoy me. Do you understand? Her words implied that she hated Han Yuanji very much. These sword scars were left by you. Ning Fan didn't leave. Instead, he looked at the grave and asked. So what? You don't understand the sword. You are Han Yuanji's disciple, so you are not a good person. Quickly leave, don't make me angry. I will cut you down with 1 sword. This woman really did have a prejudice against the old monster. Ning Fan shook his head. This woman was like a ghost living in the grave. Could it be that she was an innocent girl killed by the old monster? Ning Fan didn't know that this woman didn't only have a prejudice against the old monster, but also against him. The woman's grave and Ning Fan's bedroom were only separated by a wall. For 2 consecutive nights, she heard the sounds of Ning Fan and Jiha making love. It was so noisy that she couldn't sleep at night and was very annoyed. In her heart, Ning Fan was only a lecherous scoundrel. That was all. A scoundrel couldn't understand the sword and didn't have the qualifications to stay in front of her grave. Humph. He didn't leave. Maybe he saw my pretty face and wanted to strike up a conversation with me. If I ignore him, he will feel bored and leave. With this prejudice, the woman didn't want to talk to him no matter what. The grave was silent for a while. Only the sound of the wind and snow could be heard. Unfortunately, even if the woman ignored Ning Fan, he still didn't leave. Ning Fan stood in front of the bluestone as if he was contemplating and hesitating. The 3 sword scars on the bluestone seemed to have an indescribable magic that made him unable to move his eyes away. Through the 3 sword scars, he seemed to be able to see a heroic woman with a plum blossom on her temples. She was dancing with a sword in the wind and snow. Each and every move was seen very clearly. Gradually, it seemed that he couldn't see any of the moves. After a long time, Ning Fan suddenly reached out his hand and touched the first sword scar. His action was beyond the woman's expectation. The woman immediately shouted, "You are not allowed to touch the sword scar. Quickly stop. If you dare to touch it, I will kill you." These 3 sword scars were related to the woman's oath. How could she let a man touch it so easily? "Fine, I won't touch it then." Ning Fan frowned and withdrew his hand. He turned around and left. He felt that the woman in the grave was very strange. Although she was beautiful, her temperament was too solitary. Dugu, Dugu, could it be that the 2 words Dugu were her name? It was really a solitary name. Speaking of which, he only wanted to touch the sword scar and feel the sword energy. Was it necessary for this woman to want to kill him? What an inexplicable female ghost. After Ning Fan left, the woman in the grave suddenly appeared. Her eyes flashed with a proud sword light. She looked at Ning Fan's back and gently snorted. Fortunately, she stopped in time. If Ning Fan really touched the sword energy, then it would be troublesome. These 3 sword scars were related to her experiment and could not be easily touched by others. Wait a minute. Where did the first sword scar go? The woman looked at the green stone in disbelief. The first sword scar on the green stone was actually gone. He touched it. Ning Fan still touched the sword scar. The sword energy, after being touched by Ning Fan, dissipated without a trace. It had been taken away by Ning Fan. The woman was so angry that she was about to cry. Shameless thief, worthy of being Han Yuanji's disciple, actually stealing his sword scars. Fortunately, only one of the 3 sword scars was missing. There were still 2 left. She must guard them well and not let Ning Fan steal them again. If someone successfully took away her 3 sword scars, she would marry that person as his wife. This was the oath she made when she entered the grave that year. Fortunately, Ning Fan did not take away all of the sword scars. After bidding farewell to the ghost girl, Ning Fan looked at Jiha. Seeing that she was still not awake, he quickly went to the pill refining room and prepared to refine the Dan again. He did not notice that at this moment, there was an additional sword energy in his body that belonged to the girl. This sword energy originally existed on the green stone, but it was inadvertently taken away by Ning Fan. Gradually, it was refined and controlled. This time, Ning Fan tried to refine a 3rd revolution Dan. Unfortunately, the moment he opened the cauldron, it exploded. It was not because of his failure to refine the Dan that caused the cauldron to explode, but because the sword energy hidden in his body suddenly felt the temperature of the earth fire and rushed out of his body, shattering the old monster's cauldron. With the cauldron shattered, Ning Fan naturally could not continue to refine the Dan. The sword light that shattered the cauldron spread throughout the entire refinement room. With only one sword, it cut the entire refinement room into 2 halves. The sword light went straight up, exploding into the misty snowy sky. The ear-piercing sword cry, in a split second, spread throughout the entire 7-apricot city. The cauldron exploded. The old monster who was drinking in his room suddenly became startled. He pushed the door open and looked towards the direction of the pill refining room. He naturally knew that Ning Fan was busy with refining the Dan, but he did not think that the cauldron explosion would cause such a loud commotion. The sword light that soared to the sky was somewhat familiar. Yes, it was little girl Dugu's sword technique. Transforming flame to sword. Isn't this little girl Dugu's sword technique? How could little brat Ning also know it? He shouldn't have a relationship with little girl Dugu, right? The old monster's heart was tangled. His chrysanthemum face wrinkled like a rag. In his life, he only loved one woman, and Dugu was that woman's only sister. If little brat Ning has a relationship with Dugu, then he and I will cross paths. He shouldn't have taken away all of little girl Dugu's sword scars, right? The old monster was actually worried about this. The person who took away 3 of little girl Dugu's sword scars would be her husband. This was the oath she made on the day she entered the tomb. If Ning Fan took away all of the sword scars, then he would be little girl Dugu's husband and the old monster's brother-in-law. His grandmother, if his disciple became his brother-in-law, then where would his master's face go? No, I must stop this from happening. Wait a minute, that smelly brat's aura is actually at the 5th level of vein opening. The old monster was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. How could little brat Ning go from the 1st level of vein opening to the 5th level in just one day? What kind of cultivation speed was this? Even with his experience, this was the first time he had heard of such a thing. Chapter 10. While unconscious, Ning Fan fell into a strange dream. In the dream, he was in a hazy world, and there was a 10,000-foot fire steel in the middle of the world. Under the monument, there was a woman whose face could not be seen. She was lying on top of a misty cloud as if she was sleeping. Her body had a vast magical power and a powerful aura, completely incomparable to the vein opening and harmonious spirit cultivators of 7 Apricot City. You are the owner of that mysterious voice, Ning Fan asked in a daze. Little husband, you cannot peek or else your mind will be trapped in the mysterious Yin world. Unable to get out, the woman smiled as if she was dreaming. Her breath smelled like orchids and blew out a fragrant wind that directly blew Ning Fan out of the dream. Mysterious Yin world, this is the world inside the Yin Yang locket, seems to be this name. After an unknown amount of time, Ning Fan slowly opened his eyes and felt a bit dizzy. He could clearly remember the dream just now. The moment he woke up, the voice of the mysterious woman rang in his mind. Big sister will sleep for at least a few more decades. Don't wake big sister again, remember? You are sleeping again. The mysterious woman fell asleep and Ning Fan's mind gradually became sober. He then found that he was back in his bedroom, lying on his bed. Jiha was guarding his side. Seeing that Ning Fan had woken up, she quickly brought a copper basin and wiped Ning Fan's face with gentle and careful movements. Big brother Fan, you have been unconscious for 3 days, Jiha was very worried. 3 days. Ning Fan was a bit surprised. He didn't think that after his magical power was sucked dry by the sword energy, he would be weak to the point of being unconscious for 3 days. This was truly a terrifying sword energy. Why did his body have this kind of sword energy? Was it related to the bluestone sword mark of the female ghost? Hiss. Ning Fan suddenly felt a headache, and then, information about sword techniques appeared in his mind. Transforming sword to fire, harmonious spirit sword technique, draw fire into a sword and transform the sword into fire. He inexplicably learned a harmonious spirit sword technique called transforming sword to fire. Could this be considered the first magical technique he learned since he became a cultivator? Hey, little brat, you're finally awake. Little girl, go out for a bit, your father has something to ask him. A wretched laughter came as the old monster strode into Ning Fan's bedroom and kicked Jiha out. You're here to check my cultivation progress. Ning Fan speechlessly looked at the chrysanthemum-faced old monster. He couldn't associate this wretched old man with the black-clothed devil that stood in the sky that day. What you. Don't you have any manners? Call me master. The old monster was displeased. The word master was too heavy. Ning Fan did not know why, but he could not say it out loud. Humph, what an awkward brat. Forget it, I'm not here to talk nonsense with you today. I have something to ask you. Senior, please ask away. Ning Fan's tone became a little more courteous. After all, he was living under the same roof. The old monster was still dissatisfied with this form of address, but he was too lazy to say anything more. "What's with that sword transformation technique of yours? You have an affair with the little girl Dugu?" The old monster nervously looked at Ning Fan. No, he had to stop the plot of his disciple becoming his brother-in-law. I mustn't let Ning Fan and Dugu get together. If I said I don't know anything, would you believe me? Ning Fan wryly smiled. He didn't know how he learned the sword transformation technique. The old monster stared at Ning Fan with an expression that said, "Don't lie to me," while Ning Fan looked at the old monster with an expression that said, "I'm very innocent." After a long time, the old monster helplessly waved his hand and said, "Fine, fine, as an evil master, you have to lie. Even if you lie to your master will accept it and will be even more satisfied with you. Hee, this is in line with the evil path, my black evil sex ancestral teachings." As a result, the old monster blew his beard and glared at Ning Fan and blabbered on about his black evil sex ancestral teachings. For the first time, Ning Fan felt that the old monster was a chatterbox. He didn't know why, but he became a little closer to the old monster. It was as if this was not the high and mighty old monster, but a somewhat wretched old man. "Your father said so much, you remember it all?" The old monster said with dissatisfaction. "Yes." "Good, then your father will ask you another thing. Your Dan refinement skill is already enough to refine a third revolution Dan. Are you a third revolution pill master?" The old monster stared at Ning Fan with a complicated expression. He himself only had a third revolution Dan refinement realm. If Ning Fan also had a third revolution Dan refinement realm, then wouldn't they be on the same level? He was the master. If he was at the same level as his disciple, how was he supposed to continue living? Originally, the old monster didn't take Ning Fan's antidote too seriously. After all, he needed at least a fourth revolution Dan to cure his poison. He did not think that Ning Fan would be able to complete the pill. However, he still let Ning Fan do whatever he wants. Now, it seemed like Ning Fan was not fooling around. Although he had just started cultivating, he actually knew such profound alchemy techniques. As expected, it's because of that jade lock, never tried, but with my current 5th level vein opening magical power, it should be enough to refine a third revolution Dan. Ning Fan thought for a moment and answered. "Oh, smelly brat, your tone is not small. Could it be that you can even refine a fourth revolution Dan?" The old monster looked calm on the surface, but inwardly, he sucked in a breath of cold air. His grandma, could it be that this brat could really refine a third revolution Dan? How was he supposed to continue living as a master? Fourth revolution never tried before. This implied that he had a certain degree of certainty in refining it. This devilish disciple had just started cultivating, yet he could already refine a fourth revolution Dan, even better than the master. The old monster's face alternated between blue and red. He was the master, so how could his alchemy technique be inferior to his disciple? Shameful, shameful. Smelly brat, give me a copy of your antidote Dan recipe. Your father wants to go into seclusion, your father wants to refine Dawn, your father wants to break through to the fourth revolution Dan refinement technique. The old monster, who only treated alchemy as a game, had the determination to study it for the first time. Humph. No matter what, he cannot lose to his disciple. Ning Fan didn't know what the old monster was angry about, but he still wrote a Dan recipe for the old monster. 7 Yin Yang Mysterious Dan. This was the name of the Dan to cure the old monster's poison. On the Dan recipe, the proportions of the medicinal ingredients and the matters to pay attention to were all very clearly marked. Ning Fan was actually worried that the old monster, as a third revolution Dan refinement master, would not be able to refine a fourth revolution Dan. Thus, the old monster was in a bad mood. Ning Fan wrote down the Dan refinement process in such detail. Was he looking down on his master? Humph, to think that he, Han Yuanji, was able to move unhindered in the northern heaven with such glory. Now that he had fallen to the lower world, He was actually looked down upon by a young disciple who had just started cultivating wait a minute, this step still needs to absorb the fire into the Dan. How do I absorb it? Why haven't I learned this technique before? This step, this technique, Dan divided into two, what does it mean? How come I don't understand it? The old monster's expression became even uglier. He found that his alchemy technique truly could not compare to Ning Fan. Just this fourth revolution Dan recipe alone made him unable to understand it. Previously, he blamed Ning Fan for being too detailed, but now, he blamed Ning Fan for explaining too little and not going deep enough. Damn it, I can't even understand this Dan recipe, how can I refine Dawn? The old monster felt aggrieved in his heart, but on the surface, he put on an unfathomable attitude of a master. He rubbed Ning Fan's head and put away the Dan recipe with a very disapproving expression. Not bad, not bad. I have seen this Dan recipe, and there is no mistake. In fact, I also know this Dan recipe. I let you write it to test your understanding of the Tao of alchemy. Not bad, smelly brat, you are qualified and qualified to be my disciple. There is no harm in telling you, if you didn't pass my test, you would be a dead man right now. Continue to work hard, don't relax. The old monster swung his sleeve and casually walked out of the room. Little Jiha let out a sigh of relief and entered the room. She patted her chest and said to Ning Fan, Big brother Fan, so dangerous, so dangerous. Fortunately, your Dan recipe was not wrong, or else that old monster would have killed you. I didn't think that he would test you at every turn, so dangerous. Silly girl, you are so cute, believing everything that the old monster said. Ning Fan laughed and looked at Jiha. He could feel that the current old monster had no killing intent towards him and instead sincerely regarded him as a disciple. The old monster even said that he knew this Dan recipe. Who was he trying to deceive? This 7 young mysterious Dan was a Dan recipe created by the ancient Chaos Grand Emperor in his twilight years. No one in the outside world knew about it. It would be strange if the old monster knew about this Dan recipe, but he still wanted to test him just now. The old monster clearly frowned twice. It was clear that there were two parts of the Dan recipe that he didn't understand. Not understanding it yet pretending, this old monster is also very interesting. Ning Fan laughed involuntarily. He actually felt that old monster Han was a cute old man, not like a devil. Perhaps it was not a bad thing to have such an old monster as a master. Jiha's big eyes gazed at the smiling Ning Fan and became infatuated as she stared at him. Big brother Fan's smile is very handsome. In order to save face, the old monster completely abandoned the affairs of 7 Apricot City and went into closed-door cultivation to concentrate on Dan refinement, not caring about the outside world. The big and small affairs of 7 Apricot City were handled by the 3 harmonious spirit commanders, Nangong, Situ, and Yuchi, so there was no need for Ning Fan, the young lord of 7 Apricot City, to care about anything. However, the old monster did not know if it was a sudden impulse or something else, but he still gave Ning Fan a task. The task of presiding over the Tao fruit auction. The old monster's tone was very relaxed, making Ning Fan mistakenly think that this auction was a very small matter. But then, he found out that he was wrong. The Tao fruit auction was held at the Godly Void Pavilion. That was an extremely mysterious and powerful force. Presiding over the auction was not as simple as going up to sell something. The Tao fruit was a supreme treasure. On the day of the auction, there would be countless harmonious spirit and even gold core experts arriving at 7 Apricot City. Receiving these old monsters and maintaining the peace of 7 Apricot City became Ning Fan's top priority. Without the old monster suppressing the scene, if there were really gold core old monsters killing people in 7 Apricot City, would Ning Fan care or not? No matter what, the auction was going to be ruined. Care what would he use to control the gold core old monsters? Outside of maintaining the peace, Ning Fan also needed to contact all the forces in 7 Apricot City to attend the auction together. In 7 Apricot City, outside of the 3 black evil guards, the remaining evil cultivators belonged to the 4 great clans of 7 Apricot City. The 4 great clans seemed to still look down on Ning Fan, and among the 3 evil guards, outside of the Apricot guards led by Yuchi, the other 2 did not give Ning Fan any face. Ning Fan ordered Yuchi to send out invitations to invite the representatives of the 3 guards and the 4 clans to discuss the auction, but in the end, no one came. Sure enough, as the new 7 Apricot young lord, his prestige was still not enough. Since he was busy with the auction, Ning Fan naturally did not have the mood to refine Dawn. He had just broken through to the 5th level vein opening not too long ago, and his cultivation still needed to stabilize. With this buffer period, he was not in a hurry to refine vein opening Dawn to increase his cultivation. Yuchi, I heard that the Sword Guard Commander Situ has coiling evil grass in his mansion. He seems to have a deep prejudice against me becoming the 7 Apricot young lord inside the main hall of the Si Fan Palace, Ning Fan asked Yuchi with an extremely faint tone. No matter what, he still managed to subdue 1 person from the 4 great clans and the 3 great guards, and that was Yuchi, who liked to feed pigs. Outside of the Apricot Manor, he used his strength to convince Yuchi. Replying to the young lord, Commander Situ has no evil intentions, he just wants the young lord to come to his mansion for a chat, Yuchi respectfully replied. This respect was not only because Ning Fan had the power to defeat him, but also because of Ning Fan's Dan refinement skill. Recently, he had been staying by Ning Fan's side and heard many rumors from the old monster's mouth. It seemed that Ning Fan's Dan refinement skill was too high, and the old monsters couldn't face him, so he went into closed-door cultivation to refine Dawn. Oh heavens! The city lord, Han Yuanji, was a 3rd revolution Dan master, and Ning Fan's Dan refinement skill was even higher than the city lord, so he was at least a 3rd revolution. 3rd revolution Dan master. A Dan master that could refine gold core Dawn. In the Yu country, no matter where one went, one could enjoy the treatment of a gold core expert. A Dan master of this level had an extremely terrifying appeal. As long as he said one word, someone he wanted to kill, there would be countless harmonious spirit experts of the righteous and evil sects that would listen to Ning Fan's command for a Dan. If the Dan he refined was a bit more precious, even a gold core old monster could be invited to lend him a hand. He still remembered 40 years ago, when the old monster was a 3rd revolution Dan master and attacked the righteous sects, he only needed to issue an order and countless evil cultivators would gather to respond. That scene was spectacular. In Yuchi's mind, he imagined the scene of Ning Fan attacking the righteous sects, and his respect for Ning Fan increased day by day. When can I gather people with the young lord to go out and kick down a righteous sect? That would be a great thing. How many years has it been since I killed a person and kicked down a sect? While he was imagining the future, Ning Fan's voice rang. Yuchi, wake up, don't be distracted, I am talking to you young lord, sorry, this subordinate was disrespectful. Yuchi finally recovered from his delusion and looked at Ning Fan with eager eyes. What did the young lord just say, can you say it again? I said, you lead the way, take me to meet Commander Situ. Hiss. Young lord, you can't do that. Second brother is very prejudiced against you. His sword energy is incomparably sharp, killing people and drinking blood. If he sees you and does something to you, the city lord will blame this subordinate. Yuchi was a bit worried, afraid that Situ would fight with Ning Fan. Ning Fan had the strength to defeat Yuchi, but Situ was much stronger than Yuchi. Chapter 11. The doors were tightly shut with 500 sword guards standing guard outside. Each of them wore a bright red sword robe with 7 sword patterns embroidered on their shoulders. As if they knew Ning Fan would come, the 500 well-trained sword guards lined up in a beautiful fish sword formation. The surging sword energy suddenly rushed forward, causing Ning Fan to instinctively take 2 steps back before stabilizing his body. Yuchi was in an even more difficult situation. Even though he was a harmonious spirit old monster, He almost lost his balance after being hit by the aura of 500 people. His face immediately darkened. What is going on? They haven't even met yet, but they already want to show their strength to the young lord. This subordinate greets Commander Yuchi. Commander Situ is not feeling well today and will not see any guests. The one who answered was a 10th level vein-opening man with a murderous aura. He didn't even look at Ning Fan. He emphasized the word, foreign guest, obviously referring to Ning Fan. Guest, what a good guest, does he not want to acknowledge Ning Fan's position as the young lord of 7 Apricot City? I am the young lord of 7 Apricot City, Ning Fan. I have a matter to discuss with Commander Situ. I will have to trouble you to pass the message. Ning Fan didn't put the cold sword man in front of him in his mind. He took one step forward and a tyrannical black fire aura suddenly rushed forward. The heat wave directly scattered the sword energy of the 500 sword guards. Between the heaven and earth, there was a chaotic surge of fire elemental energy. So strong. This is 5th level vein opening cultivation. The expression of the sword man greatly changed. The Ning Fan in front of him was completely different from the rumors. He was not at the first level of the vein opening realm, nor was he a weak rookie. He was able to disperse the imposing manner of 500 people by himself. The sword man was clearly a 10th level vein opening cultivator and was only one step away from the harmonious spirit realm, but facing Ning Fan, he felt a faint sense of danger. Could it be that the rumors of Ning Fan injuring Commander Yuchi were true? This young lord wants to see Commander Situ. Are you sure you want to stop this young lord? Ning Fan looked at the sword man with a smile that was not a smile. The invisible aura actually caused the sword man's forehead to have a trace of cold sweat. Dangerous, very dangerous. In a trance, the sword man had an illusion that if he continued to stop Ning Fan, his life would be in danger. One disagreement and he decided to kill. This young lord was not a soft persimmon. Yuchi, let's go in. Ning Fan no longer looked at the swordsman and directly led Yuchi into the city mansion. The swordsman's face showed a struggle, but in the end, he didn't dare to stop them. Only when he could no longer see Ning Fan's figure did he feel relieved and said with a bitter smile. As expected of the city lord's disciple. This aura is nothing like a child who has just started cultivating. The decoration of the Situ residence was extremely luxurious. The walls of the courtyard were filled with gold leaf, and the railings were hung with corals. The outer courtyard was a garden that was 1,000 zhang wide. It was unknown what kind of method Situ used to make this place feel like spring all year round, not being affected by wind and snow. The only strange thing was that there were tombstones everywhere in the garden. It was as if the entire Garden of Spring was dedicated to these graves. Ning Fan's eyebrows twitched when he sensed the cold sword chi coming out from the grave. This tomb is extraordinary. Hearing this, Yuchi's expression slightly changed and secretly praised Ning Fan's keen eyesight. These tombs were indeed extraordinary. Just as he was about to explain the origin of these graves to Ning Fan's, a cold voice suddenly came from the other side of the garden. Extraordinary. A little child like you can see that the tombs here are extraordinary. Ning Fan slightly raised his head and looked at the person who was slowly walking over. It was a thin middle-aged man that looked around 30 years old. His long hair was loose, but he was wearing a black monastic robe. A pair of eyes that seemed to be muddy and clear at the same time, extremely extraordinary. His eyebrows were like swords, slanting to the temples. His eyes were like an eagle's and naturally carried a cold murderous aura. I know your purpose for coming here. Tell me, what is so extraordinary about these tombs? The middle-aged man's words were overbearing and did not give Ning Fan's the slightest leeway. This person was the commander of the sword guards, Situ. Ning Fan looked at Situ. This person's bones were like a sword, and his character would rather break than bend. To make this person submit to him, it would not be easy with just strength. Since this person asked, he needed to answer his question properly. Ning Fan could vaguely see through Situ's cultivation. He was at the intermediate harmonious spirit realm and was only one step away from the late realm, but it seemed like he had been stuck at intermediate for many years. Looking at the tombs in the garden, he suddenly understood something. There are 105 tombs here with 105 famous swords buried here. These famous swords are buried in a formation. Commander Situ must want to use the sword energy here to break through the bottleneck of the late harmonious spirit realm, right? Ning Fan slowly said. Situ's eyes lit up, but he did not comment on Ning Fan's words. It's a pity, Ning Fan deliberately said half of his words and suddenly stopped. He turned around and walked out of the Situ mansion. His action was inexplicable. Yuchi scratched his head and did not understand why Ning Fan suddenly left, but Situ's expression slightly changed after hearing it and asked, "Young lord, please wait. You haven't said it, but what is a pity?" Situ had followed the old monster for 40 years. In these 40 years, his sword Dao advanced by leaps and bounds, from early harmonious spirit all the way to intermediate harmonious spirit. But no matter what, he could not reach late harmonious spirit as if there was a barrier. He set up the sword tombs here to comprehend, but he always felt that this place was missing something, but he could not understand it. Hearing the unfinished meaning in Ning Fan's words, he seemed to know what this place was missing. And when Ning Fan said half of his words and directly turned around to leave, he was giving himself a choice. If you submit to me and let me be the young lord, then I will tell you the method to break through to the late harmonious spirit realm. If you still don't accept me, then I will not stay any longer. But this way, you will miss the opportunity to break through to the late harmonious spirit realm. Situ was different from Yuchi. He was not stupid, on the contrary, he was very wise. Thus, his requirement for the 7 apricot young lord was not cultivation and strength, but shrewdness and shrewdness. Ning Fan said half of his words and turned around, revealing a mind that was completely unlike that of an ignorant young man who had just started cultivating. This made Situ very satisfied with Ning Fan, but he was also curious about what kind of experience he had to go through to be able to make a 16-year-old boy have such shrewdness and shrewdness. Truly an interesting young lord. Worth following. With this in mind, Situ did not dare to continue to be arrogant and finally opened his mouth to call out to Ning Fan. This call already meant that he was submitting to Ning Fan. Ning Fan slightly smiled and turned around, very satisfied with Situ's actions. Only the simple and honest Yuchi scratched his head, unable to understand the meaning behind Ning Fan and Situ's words. Can young lord dispel this subordinate's doubts? Seeing Ning Fan turn around, Situ respectfully cupped his fists towards Ning Fan and called himself his subordinate. This was the secret signal of his trust towards Ning Fan. Seeing that he had successfully subdued Situ, Ning Fan no longer kept him in suspense. He did not explain what was missing in this sword grave, but instead, he slowly raised his hand and a black flame appeared on his fingertip. He had the memories of an immortal emperor, so even if his cultivation was not high, it was not difficult to see the flaws in Situ's cultivation. There were many things that could not be explained with words, so it was better to let Situ comprehend the late harmonious spirit realm bottleneck by himself. Fire as a sword. Ning Fan suddenly shook his fingertip, and the black flame turned into a black sword light and fiercely slashed towards Situ. In the past, Ning Fan only relied on the power of the black flame to injure Yuchi. Then, Ning Fan obtained the mysterious flame ring, causing the power of the black flame to increase by 30%. Now, Ning Fan coincidentally comprehended the fire as a sword technique, causing the power of the black flame to become even more terrifying. With Yuchi's early harmonious spirit cultivation, he could not clearly see how Ning Fan slashed out this sword. Even an intermediate harmonious spirit like Situ could barely vaguely see the approaching trajectory of the sword light. Strong. Very strong. If he could not withstand this sword, then he would die without a doubt. Situ grabbed towards the sword grave with his big hand, and the sword grave suddenly emitted a chi-chi sound. 105 flying swords flew out and collided with Ning Fan's sword fire. The powerful ripples from the battle shattered the flying swords one by one, and even forced Situ to retreat continuously. He was extremely shocked. In just one exchange, his 105 flying swords were all shattered by the sword fire. The sword fire's power did not diminish, and it directly rushed towards him. I can't block it. I will die. When Situ thought that he was going to die, Ning Fan waved his sleeve and dispersed the frightening sword fire. His forehead was covered in sweat. With his 5th level vein opening cultivation, using the fire as a sword was still a bit difficult, but its power was not bad. Even with Situ's late harmonious spirit cultivation, he still had a hard time withstanding this sword. This sword technique was enough to be Ning Fan's trump card. Hiss. Such a frightening divine ability. I didn't think that young lord still had this kind of trump card. If he used this divine ability that day, how could I have withstood it? On the side, Yuchi was already dumbfounded, and his expression towards Ning Fan became even more respectful. Situ looked at the broken swords on the ground with a complex expression, and his respect towards Ning Fan rose once again. With just this sword, young lord had the qualifications to rule 7 Apricot City. Moreover, in this sword, Situ faintly grasped a key point. If he could understand it, then breaking through to late harmonious spirit would not be far. Chapter 12. As for the small patch of coiled evil grass growing in the Situ clan, Ning Fan had also taken it away. As such, after gathering the jade royal grass and coiling devil grass, Ning Fan could concoct the jade royal pill. In the memories of the immortal emperor, the jade royal pill, which was said to be difficult to obtain by the immortal emperor, had an extraordinary medicinal effect. He was really looking forward to it. Unfortunately, there were too many things to do at the auction. He had to be busy for a while before he had time to concoct pills. Coming out from the Situ mansion, Ning Fan heaved a sigh of relief. After subduing 2 harmonious spirit commanders, his position in 7 Apricot City could be considered to be completely stabilized. Yuchi followed behind Ning Fan's, wanting to say something but hesitating. Even though he was simple and honest, he was not stupid. He could see that Ning Fan's sword was giving Situ some pointers. After receiving Ning Fan's guidance, Situ was obviously enlightened. It wouldn't be long before he broke through to the late harmonious spirit realm. Late harmonious spirit realm. How enviable. Sigh, if only young master was willing to give me some pointers. After holding it in for a long time, Yuchi finally couldn't hold it anymore. On the way back to Si Fan Palace, he asked Ning Fan for help. Young master, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. This subordinate is also loyal to you. You've guided second brother Situ, but you can't not guide me. This isn't fair. Yes, it's not fair. Yuchi said anxiously. Guide you? Ning Fan looked at Yuchi and shook his head. Yuchi had been guarding the Plum Manor and the Herb Garden for a long time. Unknowingly, the ruthlessness in his heart had been tempered. Ruthlessness, not viciousness, but a kind of determination and boldness in cultivating the devil path. Yuchi and the 400 Apricot Guards were not ruthless enough, so their achievements would be limited. Situ, on the other hand, had extraordinary aptitude for the sword Dao and was able to understand it with just a single try. This Yuchi didn't seem to have any good points other than feeding pigs. Wait, feed the pigs? You seem to have a good relationship with your Sky River pig? Ning Fan suddenly asked with a strange look in his eyes. Yes, yes. Young master also wants to raise one. If there's a chance, this subordinate will help you catch one. Yuchi's face was full of flattery. No, I don't like pigs. However, I do have a cultivation technique that can help you increase your strength. The prerequisite is that you can accept this cultivation technique. Although there was only the yin-yang transformation in Ning Fan's mind, there were also many other miscellaneous merit laws. One of them was the beast subduing technique. It was an unorthodox cultivation technique that required the cultivator to dual cultivate with a demonic beast, combining the two of them. It was extremely hardcore. Ning Fan didn't intend to cultivate this hardcore merit law, but if Yuqi could accept it, he wouldn't mind teaching it to him. Yuqi, this idiot, didn't he like pigs? I'll just have to dual cultivate with his pig. Hearing this, Yuqi was overjoyed. He didn't care whether the merit law was hardcore or not, he only cared if he could break through to the intermediate harmonious spirit realm. Thus, when Ning Fan returned to Si Fan Palace, he wrote down 2 sets of cultivation laws based on his memory. A set of beast taming spell, a hardcore cultivation technique for both **** and ****, was naturally for Yuqi. Yuqi received the cultivation method, and after looking at it, he was shocked, and left in great joy. When he got home, he couldn't wait to take out the Sky River pig. Looking at it from left to right, all kinds of feelings welled up in his heart. He had never married a wife in his life, but this little pig might be his only wife in the future. Fortunately, it's a sow, so it can dual cultivate with me. It's a bit ugly, but I'll make do with it. Amidst the sow's screams, Yuqi tested the effects of the beast taming spell. The process was extremely ecstatic, and needless to say. The second cultivation method Ning Fan wrote down was a cauldron cultivation method named Maiden Returning Yin Method, prepared for Jiha. Jiha had a natural charming bone physique, and cultivating this cauldron cultivation method was much faster than other methods. The most important thing was that after cultivating this method, Jiha could suppress the yin energy inside her body. Even if she didn't have sex with others, her physique would no longer act up. Unfortunately, this merit law had a requirement. In the first 3 months of cultivation, she was not allowed to have sex with a man. This caused Ning Fan and Jiha's dual cultivation plan to be temporarily halted. As a result, Jiha went into seclusion next to Ning Fan's bedroom. This seclusion would last for 3 months. Ning Fan completely immersed himself in the matters of the auction. Every night, when it was quiet, he would sit cross-legged in meditation to stabilize his 5th-level vein opening cultivation. His magical power also gradually condensed. In a flash, 10 days had passed. In these 10 days, the old monster failed to refine a 4th revolution. Dan in his cauldron exploded once. With a dark expression, he ran out of the Si Fan Palace and once again took the medicinal ingredients and cauldron to refine Dan again. He didn't believe that he couldn't break through to the 4th revolution Dan refinement realm. In these 10 days, the godly Void Pavilion built a magnificent ice palace in the southern part of 7 Apricot City to host the Dao fruit auction. In these 10 days, many experts from the Yu country came to 7 Apricot City in order to participate in the Dao fruit auction. There were both righteous and evil cultivators, and most of them were harmonious spirit old monsters. These experts were received by Situ and Yuqi, and they stayed in the southern market square of 7 Apricot City. But today, Ning Fan received a message from Yuqi, and his eyes immediately sank. Among the guests that came to 7 Apricot City, one of them was from the Heavenly Beast School. Heavenly Beast School. A school that Ning Fan always thought about. His little brother was currently in the Heavenly Beast School. Heavenly Beast School's outer sect elder, Wu Dongnan, late harmonious spirit cultivation, 2nd revolution Dan master identity. His other identity is the all-pleasure schoolmaster Sha Jiuyo's husband. In the Si Fan Palace, Ning Fan held the information with a cold gaze. According to the information, the majority of the male cauldrons sold by the all-pleasure school to the Heavenly Beast School were handled by Wu Dongnan. His little brother, Ning Gu, was also handled by Wu Dongnan and sold to the Heavenly Beast School. With this in mind, Ning Fan's heart naturally could not be comfortable. Soon, he received another piece of information from Situ. After reading this piece of information, Ning Fan's eyes had a hint of anger. After this Wu Dongnan came to 7 Apricot City, he dared to make an excessive request to 7 Apricot City. He wanted to take away a young girl named Jiha. He dared to have designs on the young mistress of 7 Apricot City. In the Ice Guard's mansion, Commander Nangong was receiving a man in a black robe. This man had a cold expression and a hoarse and old voice. On the surface, he looked young, but in reality, he was a 200-year-old monster. This person was the one that released the tracking mouse to track Jihe. He was an elder of the Heavenly Beast School, named Wu Dongnan. The All-Pleasure School was still a branch of my Heavenly Beast School. Han Yuanji did not say anything and destroyed the All-Pleasure School. He even stole the cauldron that I had been raising for many years. Is he not putting my Heavenly Beast School in his eyes? Elder Wu's words carried a threatening tone and directly put a big hat on 7 Apricot City. The Heavenly Beast School is the #1 evil school in the Yu country. How could our city lord Han dare to offend them? How could he knowingly steal Elder Wu's cauldron? Does Elder Wu's words have any evidence? If there is no evidence, then don't speak carelessly. Nangong's face was stiff and displeased. Cut the crap and hand over the paper crane. This old man has used the tracking mouse to investigate. That little girl is currently in your 7 Apricot City. Having said this, Wu Dongnan's eyes had a hint of dread, but he quickly calmed down. He heard that for an unknown reason, the old monster was in closed-door cultivation to refine Dan and did not care about worldly matters. Even though he was an elder of the Heavenly Beast School, he was still afraid of Han Yuanji, one of the top 10 experts of the Yu country. He dared to look down on Nangong and 7 Apricot City, but he did not dare to look down on the old monster. Unless it was a last resort, Wu Dongnan did not want to provoke 7 Apricot City. However, Jihe was born with a charming physique. She was the best cauldron that he had raised in the All-Pleasure School for many years, and she was his only hope to break through to the Gold Core realm. In order to take back Jihe, he would not hesitate to offend Han Yuanji today. The cauldron that you want is called Jihe. Humph. Jihe is the wife of my 7 Apricot City's young lord. You opened your mouth and asked for my young lord's wife, are you not putting my 7 Apricot City in your eyes? Nangong's eyes became cold. This old man will not talk nonsense with you. Before the end of the Dao fruit gathering, hand over Jihe. Otherwise, your 7 Apricot City will become the enemy of my Heavenly Beast School. Wu Dongnan coldly snorted. You are only an outer elder of the Heavenly Beast School, yet you dare to represent the Heavenly Beast School and speak such harsh words to my 7 Apricot City? Can you represent the Heavenly Beast School? Nangong angrily said. Humph, provoking this old man is the same as provoking the Heavenly Beast School. If you don't believe me, you can try. This old man will say it here, this girl, Jihe, is mine for sure. Wu Dongnan coldly snorted like a fox borrowing the tiger's might, then he flicked his sleeves and left. Only Nangong was left alone with a green and red expression. Among the 3 harmonious spirit commanders, Nangong was the only one that had not submitted to Ning Fan. He had not even met Ning Fan yet. Even so, he would not allow outsiders to insult Ning Fan and covet Ning Fan's woman. This was because Ning Fan was the 7 Apricot City's young lord and represented the face of 7 Apricot City. This person opened his mouth and asked for the young lord's wife, truly rude. If it was 40 years ago when the city lord led us to kill in all 4 directions, I, Nangong, would absolutely not let him leave 7 Apricot City alive, but now Nangong helplessly sighed. In the last 40 years, the old monster rarely massacred sections. The prestige of 7 Apricot City was slowly being forgotten by people. A mere Wu Dongnan, a late harmonious spirit ant, dared to cause trouble at 7 Apricot City, humph. I wonder how young Lord Ning Fan will deal with Wu Dongnan. Will he submit to Wu Dongnan and give his wife away, or will he kill Wu Dongnan? What will he choose? Nangong's eyes had a faint sense of expectation. Perhaps he could see the young lord's character from his decision. If he was afraid of the Heavenly Beast School's prestige, then he was not worthy to be his young lord. On the 11th day, the Dao fruit auction officially began. On this day, there were even 3 gold core old devils that arrived at 7 Apricot City. The auction palace was unprecedentedly grand. Because today, there would be a Dao fruit of a gold core old devil being auctioned here. Dao fruit was a product condensed from a cultivator's cultivation after their death, and the probability of it appearing was extremely low. In the cultivation world, there were endless battles. If a cultivator was killed, then there would be a very low probability of a Dao fruit appearing. The probability of a gold core Dao fruit appearing was even rarer. Usually, 100 gold core old devils would die in order to produce 1 gold core Dao fruit. The medicinal power of a gold core Dao fruit was enough to allow a vein-opening cultivator to enter the harmonious spirit realm in 1 step. It could also allow a peak harmonious spirit cultivator to enter the gold core realm in 1 step. It could even allow a gold core old devil to save 100 years of bitter cultivation. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.